How are you?
For the actually back behind me, I'm going to tell you in about 2 minutes where the best spot is. Anywhere right in there.
How are you?
For the actually back behind. Good, I should be able to zoom in on it too, so. Okay, we will now call the workshop the meeting to order. I'll ask the town clerk to do the roll call again, just for the record, please.
Councilman Coleman.
Here.
Councilman Allen. Here. Councilman Paddock.
Here.
Councilman Suisa. Here. Supervisor Layton.
Here. First item on the agenda, the acceptance of the agenda. I've got 2 additions I'd like to propose. So the town board accepts the agenda as prepared by the town supervisor. The addition of 2 topics for discussion. One is discussion of the open meetings law changes with the attorney for the town. And the second is discussion of a proposed addendum to the comprehensive plan.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay, our first item on the agenda is presentation of the EEO, Economic Enterprise Overlay Zone with the granary project. What's that?
Do we have to accept the agenda?
We just did that.
We should do it again.
So, let me give you the floor if you want to come up here. So you're presenting to us as well as the public, whoever is going to speak on your behalf, or either that or the camera's behind you. So right now it's going to be recording your back. So whoever wants to speak, and you can actually see it on that screen too. So
We were going to start with the video presentation.
okay.
And then we'll
Great. So I have been asked by the applicants to share a YouTube video that I have queued up over on that computer. So hopefully this will work. We'll find out.
And just so everybody understands, this is a video that we made a presentation for Empire State Development Grant funding, which we were awarded $500,000. And so we just thought it was appropriate to share tonight the best illustrates the game.
My name is Kathleen Gumberg, and I'm the Accord Town Historian. Main Street Accord has a long history as a hub for commerce in the Rondout Valley. With the opening of the D&H Canal in 1828, barges transported millions of tons of coal from Pennsylvania to New York City, stopping in Accord to service the greater Catskills. In 1902, the D&H Canal was replaced by the O&W Railroad. The Accord station allowed local businesses to send and receive goods to New York City and opened up the region to tourism. These passenger services brought an unprecedented number of people to the area, allowing for the creation of hotels, boarding houses, bungalow counties, grocers, and entertainment venues on Main Street. By 1910, the largest commercial venture to thrive on Main Street was the Anderson Feed Mill and Granary. Charles Anderson sold flour, feed, and grain from the region, as well as supplying coal, cement, fuel oil, and kerosene for local businesses and farmers. The Anderson property has always been a keystone to the hamlet of Accord. When these historic buildings are revitalized, the Anderson Mill will once again be a much-needed, thriving community gathering place and economic center for downtown Accord.
Hi, my name is Henry Rich. I'm an Accord resident and owner of the Accord Market on historic Main Street.
Hi, my name is Ren Hockey.
Hi, my name is Vera Farmiga. My husband Ren and I have made a home in Accord for about 19 years now. And together with Henry, we are the owners of the historic Accord Granary Complex.
So when Vera and I met Henry several years ago, we bonded over our love of the Hudson Valley, sustainability, food, art, and health. That bond was fortified when the pandemic hit and the granary complex came on the market.
COVID came and life became hyper-localized. You know, it shined a really big spotlight on the key ingredients that were missing from our community. You know, what we needed, what our children needed. And so we thought, wouldn't it be great if the old Accord mill barns could find a new life? You know, what if we could repurpose them?
Our goal for the granary complex is to create a center of commerce and community right in historic Accord. In addition, we seek to preserve and adaptively reuse a site which has lain dormant for 35 years and is in danger of collapsing if restorative action isn't taken.
The main granary barn will house a neighborhood restaurant in the western wing that will service an outdoor seating area that sits between the historic structures. This outdoor lawn area, full of picnic tables and children's activities, will become the community family gathering space that the Accord hamlet has been missing in recent years. This floor will also house a coffee shop that will sell prepared foods for local workers and residents looking for coffee, breakfast, or lunch on the go. The second floor of the main barn, with its incredible open span, will be a flexible space for community events and gatherings for up to 75 people. We plan to restore the old Sears house, built on an 18th century foundation, for use as a B&B for guests looking to explore the hamlet, rail trails, and extraordinary local treasures, Minnewaska State Park and Mohonk Preserve. We will be converting the second and third floor of the tall barn into additional B&B rooms, and the first floor will house a bike rental and repair shop. In addition to the bike shop, we also wish to extend a quarter-mile long strip of the original O&W rail trail, which runs within our property, to connect with the path running from Accord to Kerhonkson. We are in conversation with the Open Space Institute and the Ulster County Trails Advisory Committee, which have been in support of our application. We will also be restoring the old coal barn as an art gallery and residency space. We will be rebuilding the old Anderson house on the property on the original foundation. This building was torn down a few years ago after it was unoccupied for decades and left to rot. It will be used as a wellness barn for exercise classes.
Since we last presented, we have also added neighboring property 4 to 8 towpath to our project. This property, which sits next to the granary and is in the heart of town, has long been a blight on the hamlet. Of the 3 buildings that once sat there, 1 has already fallen down, a second is legally condemned, and the third is half occupied and nearly uninhabitable. We plan on rebuilding these structures as B&B rooms to match the historic design of the granary. We were also happy to announce that we have the privilege of working with local architect Scott Dutton, who has been successful in other local adaptive reuse projects such as the Fuller Building in Kingston. Our hope is that by reactivating what was once one of the busiest complexes in the county, we will be able to bring people together to help revitalize the historic district, bringing jobs, community interconnection, and life to an abandoned but beautiful site. In addition, we hope to preserve these buildings and a part of New York history for the next generation before any more of them fall down. Our interest in revitalizing the hamlet of Accord is long-term. We have been residents of the town since well before the pandemic and have already taken the first step in revitalizing the commercial corridor by opening the Accord Market, offering a year-round, 7-day food option for locals that also supports our Rondout Valley farm economy.
This $5.3 million project, once fully funded, will be a catalyst for transforming the community of Accord, New York. Construction will commence in the fall of 2022 with lead and asbestos remediation, followed by the completion of the design and construction drawings by spring of 2022. The once bustling Anderson Mill buildings in the center of Accord's Main Street that have been vacant for over 35 years will now undergo historic renovation to preserve these important structures. The overall project will preserve and adaptively reuse 4 buildings on the site, plus construct 2 new buildings to create mixed-use structures containing 15,000 square feet of rentable space. Together with the expertise of Dutton Architecture and our historic preservation consultant, combined with collaboration and guidance with NYSERDA, SHPO, and Ulster County, our team will not only preserve these buildings, but utilize sustainable and historic materials to celebrate and activate them.
We believe in 2022 that our project must be built with sustainability at its core. Environmentally, this project will be one of the most sustainable developments in the United States, utilizing recent technologies and net zero carbon building and carbon neutral operations. Our plans include solar, geothermal, zero fossil fuel use, hempcrete, passive house cooling design, rewilding of our green spaces with native plants for pollinators, extensive use of reclaimed materials, and preservation of all historic structures. We will be the first Scope 3 carbon neutral restaurant and first hospitality project to deploy zero waste practices in upstate New York. As the granary is a legacy project, it has been designed with climate resilience in mind to last as long as the original Anderson feed mills without needing to be rebuilt, which creates significant long-term carbon savings. Equally important, the project creates a vessel for a sustainable community, a public open space in the center of town where all residents of the town can participate in community programming regardless of income level. Sustainability is not a new practice for us. Our hospitality group opened the first trash-free restaurant in the United States and created the first Scope 3 carbon neutral restaurant group in the state of New York. We believe our sustainability priorities fit within the strategic objectives of the Mid-Hudson Regional Development Council and the long-term economic revitalization of upstate New York.
This project has support from every layer of the community in favor of historic preservation, opening up the rail trails, job creation, and revitalizing Main Street. We have formal letters of support from Assemblyman Kevin Cahill, Town of Rochester Supervisor Mike Baden, Ulster County Trails Advisory Committee, Open Space Institute, Friends of Historic Rochester, Bluebird Wine and Spirits, Starlight Motel, and the Town of Rochester Historic Preservation Commission.
We intend that our restoration, rehabilitation, and repurposing of existing historic assets, while capitalizing on natural resources of the rail trail, will stimulate job creation, inspire innovation, retaining and attracting residents. With the creation of 19 direct jobs and 25 indirect jobs, the Granary Project will help revitalize a once vibrant downtown and open up a community space for all residents and visitors to the area so that downtown Accord once again becomes a hub for economic vibrancy in the Rondout Valley. This is important for our community to bounce back from COVID and help address our local poverty rate of 13%.
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to present our project. We can't do this alone, so we truly appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Guess that worked out well. I thought it was funny. I just have to share this with you. In order to figure out how to do that, I went on and Google searched how to share a YouTube on Zoom, and I watched a YouTube video teaching me how to share a YouTube video on Zoom, which is kind of ironic.
Very meta.
Who would like to present and speak? And if you want to come up and address the board, and we can sort of Zoom camera in a little bit on your presentation. We're not really set up yet. We're still trying to work our way through. You're probably the first presentation we've had on our Zoom meeting. So whoever wants to speak.
So some paperwork here. Is this something we should hold on to?
Why don't you leave it here with me, unless you want to prep it, in which case.
No, I don't, but I do want to hand out some uses tables of the for each building and a site plan for the one just to reference table.
I wear a lot of hats.
There we go. We got it. You got it.
So obviously that was made with the state and plus hometown audience.
Let me stop you one second. Mary Lou, are you hearing Henry okay?
I just turned my volume up, so let's try again.
You might need to speak up just a little louder. The microphone is right above our table.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, you know, the 10-minute presentation is kind of the overview on the project. So interrupt anytime with questions that came up during the presentation. But I think probably the best way to explain it is building by building. So the main granary barn, the largest rectangle, our program is to put a restaurant on the wing. Has everybody seen the structure over the years? So the idea is to have a restaurant there and kind of outdoor seating outside, and then a co-working space on the second floor. And it would be our hope that we can accommodate up to 25 people working there, and also that could be a flex space for different events. The coal barn, which is a building that's actually in rough shape structurally, but is quite historic and beautiful. That we want to turn into some type of gallery, or maybe we do kids art classes, have people do residencies there. This right here is the original Sears house on the 18th century foundation. Just to have a number of B&B rooms, as well as the top two floors, what we call the tall bar in the presentation. And then all the way over here is where that kind of open span post and beam structure that we call the wellness markets, and that could be a lot of different things. But we were classes, different health treatments, and then all of this is our plan for parking and access. And we were actually able to do this because we added 48 towpath to the plan, which are the blue and yellow buildings, where there also used to be 8 towpath, which I think actually burned down a couple of years ago. That's where the Chinese restaurant, not that long ago. But obviously, parking is a conversation. We're working with Dennis, done a lot of big applications in Ulster County, and we're feeling really good against him. Mike is leading the legal process and put together the entire application. That's kind of the overview on the program.
Did I hear you mention building?
Oh no.
This is the only thing that was not represented in the video. This is we're proposing units.
Yeah.
Workforce housing, which, as we all know, is major shortage.
Yeah. We plan on this space, which what used to be used for cars coming in and out, just to be totally open, and kind of an open air space with picnic tables, and in the summer kind of like a fun beer garden vibe. So you can just come in, grab food, and then this is all just kind of open space. We've had different ideas for grounds, but we're just keeping as much of the space open as possible. But obviously, we need a certain amount of parking, we need a certain amount of septic. The power is going to be geothermal and solar, and anything, if we can't cover it from geothermal and solar, we're going to try to buy it from the grid, and when we can't buy it from the grid, we're going to offset, because it's very important for us that the project is whole life carbon net neutral for many reasons. And what else we didn't cover in the proposal?
The solar would be structure mounted or ground mounted?
I mean, 50 panels on the Ron's barn, 50 panels on the green.
We're working with SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, and in addition to working with Scott, with a historic architectural consultant who can advise us, Scott, on the best way to preserve the property within their guidelines, while still obviously meeting code requirements, energy requirements, and being, fit to purpose. But in general, we're trying to preserve as much as possible. We're not knocking anything down. And so it is kind of a mixed objective of preservation, obviously doing everything in the most sustainable way possible, but jobs and kind of bringing this site, back to life, which we said a bunch of times in the presentation, but closed in 1985 after being open for 100 years and being, there's still receipts on the floor of the office from 1905, selling, 500 pounds of whatever to spoon makers. So it was a thriving center of commerce for a very long time. And while we won't be selling grain, we do want to open it up for co-working, open it up for food service, and open it up for people staying in the buildings and visiting Minnewaska, going to all the local restaurants, antique stores. As you guys know, there's tremendous demand for people wanting to visit this area.
It can also be nice to activate this area for small events. Craft fairs, and the chili cook-offs, you name it.
Yeah.
And the yellow is the rail trail.
Yellow is the proposed, well, that's the, that's easy.
You want to open it up to questions? Or,
absolutely.
Just a couple technical questions. My mind goes to site plan for my own planning board days. It looks to me like, and I think I see this, so you're no longer coming in off of granite, you're going to come in off of topaz, correct?
Yeah.
I think that's a great choice personally, and I think it works well. Just a quick comment. I think having 3 entrances, like that little entrance that's coming into the little parking lot, I can already hear the county saying 2 entrances on the towpath that's close to each other is probably not good. They probably would want you to come in the main and make a sharp right turn and reconfigure that parking maybe and close off that access, only because of the proximity of the two. Just a thought, a comment, and it looks like it's probably easily achievable. And then the other entrance that's closer to Granite, what's the purpose of that one? Is that?
Deliveries and handicap spot.
Okay.
Just to have the shortest possible distance to the restaurant. So, we really wanted to minimize parking in this area because, we want to open this up and show off, the historic nature of the buildings. We were actually given site plans to have all of this as parking, and we pulled that way back. But this was as far back as we could pull it, so that trucks could come in and make deliveries, still have room to turn around.
And is that existing, or is this proposed to be?
It sort of exists.
Sort of, and you're just going to expand.
This was kind of existing going into the whole space. So it's all kind of gravel right now. I would say this is maybe grass as it gets closer to the corner.
Okay.
And this is naturally when anyone forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People just drive on it.
Yeah. It might need to do a little bit of tweaking and reconfiguring. I'm just concerned, it's such a wide entrance, but I understand for deliveries it needs to be. And the county may have issues with it, but since it's existing, they may with the proximity to granite for site. But it's a straight shot there as well. But otherwise, I think this is a great, the acquisition of that other property really opened up your site plan a lot more. I think it's a much more linear flow than before.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest too, coming in on Main Street, not having to turn down granite to access you is probably going to draw more people to you because people are going to come in and you're going to be right there on the corner. And they're not going to have to drive down granite to come back to your parking. It's a very beautiful and elegant design, and I think it works well.
What Mike's referring to, the original design had a driveway coming in, actually crossing the rail trail to get in here, but before we have this access point, and that's why we delayed in submitting to the board. This was a very difficult.
Yeah, we've only had this since February.
Other board members, questions, thoughts, comments?
Thank you for adding the workforce housing. That was my question. How you wanted to choosing only B and B instead of housing. So I appreciate you guys adding some housing with that property. My question is, do you guys know what you're going to do with the tenant now? If there is very low housing in the area, that would be one of my concerns, to make sure that they aren't the current tenant, to make sure that they aren't put out where they're able to find housing if they're there.
So yeah, actually, we had very friendly exchange with them. In fact, we gave them 3 months free living, and they agreed to move out and move out. They found a place that's functional for their family, and everything's been
Perfect. I just want to make sure that they would be able to settle and
Oh,
find something
absolutely.
different. Yeah.
They're happy, for 3 months. And we gave them as much time as they needed. Only one of the 3 units was actually livable.
Yeah.
And that they need even that unit needs quite a bit.
Yes. So if you're familiar, the yellow house.
The bank had a technical term for it.
We're not going to well.
Yeah. Gotcha.
The workforce housing sits in 4 units. What are those? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
Two bedrooms, 2 1 bedroom.
Yeah, that's the plan.
And it's 2 stories, so it'll be 2 and 2.
I think so. I mean, we looked at proposals for a larger structure, and frankly, we kind of dominated the site in a way that was not great. And I mean, this is already quite big, and that's also why we put the parking in the front. Because the charm of this is its historic nature. To build new construction that looks that historic would be over $1 million, which is just not really in the budget. So it's going to be of a different build than the rest of the project. Just so that we can keep it, even just breaking even on it, so that we can actually keep it for the workforce housing. Extremely difficult to build.
Thank you guys for making that a priority for the buildings there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions from the board?
Why is this submitted as an
Mike?
EEO?
Because it's the adaptive reuse of all the structures.
Is there additional things that we as a board need to do, like saying the amount of uses or things like that? Why is this not just going?
We don't know that answer yet. There may be, there may not be, but the EEO is specifically designed for, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a waiver or variance required. It's specifically designed for the adaptive reuse of existing structures. As neither one of you has gone through this yet. It's a 2-part phase, or 2-phase project. The first is the town board reviews it on a very wide level scope. We settle in on a concept of the site plan, maybe not every detail designed to the finished product. And in return, we can grant relief from sections of the code that may be necessary for the project until we get deep into their application, we won't know if we have.
That was really my question.
Yeah.
Was other
Yeah.
specific things that we know or?
I don't think we know yet. The number of uses now is kind of changed, and now that we got paper, I'll sit down with the drawing board, and it's a coordinated seeker review between us, the planning board, and any other agencies that have permit power, which in this case probably is only health department, and now Mike can probably correct me, or health department and maybe DEC. I don't know that DPW is now involved anymore because it's not coming in access off of the county road, it's coming off of the town road. So actually it'll be our highway superintendent involved. We then grant the approval for the overlay zoning district designation. And then we send it to the planning board where it goes through a site plan review, not a special review. And then they review the details. And if significant changes are made, then it has to come back to us to sign off on the significant changes. Or if the site plan is conceptually still the same, but maybe a few changes, minor changes, then the planning board continues it. So the first step is dealing with seeker, and simultaneously the review of the project for us, determining who's lead agency and all that. Mary Lou, you had some comments.
Yeah, just one comment, and that's when you, in your presentation, you talked about the bed and breakfast buildings. Just a point is that under our code and New York State code, if it's a bed and breakfast, an owner has to live there. So maybe you guys are planning to live there, I don't know. But if not, you could do this as an inn, very similar. But it doesn't need to be owner occupied. It may have some differences in the building code requirements. So maybe Scott could have a conversation with our code enforcement officer about those things as you're looking to develop the property.
Under New York State code, bed and breakfast requires, as Mary Lou said, the owner to live on premise.
Yeah, so
And
we meant in.
We meant boutique, yeah, but
fair enough. And when we decide, go through the number of uses, and that's where I'll probably look for some assistance from you guys of clarification. We'll calculate the number of uses on the property, and then go from there for the density that's allowed, and figure there if we need any relief or don't need relief. And that's where it kind of comes in, Michael, is the benefit of the adaptive reuse of this project as a whole allows us to grant some leeway in the code.
Yeah, I was wondering if there were specific things you know.
I don't know. Now that it's changed so much, I don't know.
Yeah.
I could have told you the original project, but not anymore.
I'm curious about water, because I know we have issues with water in the hamlet, and it would be great to find a solution that's going to be more widely useful to the hamlet, because there's a lot of properties. So if the state already is paying attention to this, is there a way we can bonus off of that, possibly look at a more larger scale solution for water? Like what is the current proposal for your
well, since there is no municipal water, I think our only option is
well on the
private well.
Yeah.
But, we have been successful in getting state funding to bring the town, and between the state and the county, they do a lot of grants and attention toward building up infrastructure around water and sewer. You guys know the history of those proposals here a lot better than we do, but we would be thrilled if this project could be a way that town of Rochester could, get some of that infrastructure money that was being spent in the state. Because I think we need it. Owning another building on Main Street, not having that, it is a short-term solution that have all these wells that would feel so close to them. So we'd love to be part of addressing them.
And it's my understanding that we're the last hamlet did not have water.
That's probably not true. Yeah. But
Well,
anyway,
State or Ulster County?
In Ulster County.
yeah.
Probably
Um,
not true.
yeah.
We'd love to help.
But
do that.
yeah, I just yesterday at the county supervisors meeting, the county executive staff, deputy county executive was there. And they are providing up to $500,000 for studies toward water and sewer. But you have to have a project that's ready to go, and we're by no means anywhere near that. So I don't know that we're gonna be able to take advantage of that. That came about, they're doing it through the ARPA money. It was just approved actually last night by the legislature. It was, the discussion yesterday morning was a little premature, but they anticipated going to be. But that's for projects that have already done their engineering studies, have already done all their studies. So
And do you have any idea, I think Councilman Coleman asked about septic, do you have any idea of what type of system, have you started to look at that?
Yeah, we
That
have,
looks like a.
here we have, I don't know the name of it. I think it's called Waterline System, and it's fully in ground, and it's in the back corner here, it's our reserve. So, yeah. that's the plan.
it's bad, it'll be.
No, we've done some stuff, that we have 48 inches, so.
I know across the street, the train station, when they redid, they had to go with the raised bed, but I know as you get into this area of Accord, you get into soil that perks better. And I'm also told that, I don't know about this property, but neighboring properties have very plentiful sources of water. And I'm not sure if you've done any test holes yet, but I'm guessing you might be kind of in that area.
We've looked at the aquifer maps, and I think we're nearby, so it will be, I think we'll have pretty good water.
Like I can just go to the dentist areas when we looked at the soils, was very happy with what he saw on the site. He was surprised, actually, that they were pretty good. And as far as the wells go, this project will have to comply with all the Part 5 water quality standards for quantity and quality. So we'll have to go through the full Part 5 testing, pump test, whether that'll be a 24 or 48 hour. I don't think it will be a 72 hour, but it will be, it's required by the Oakland County Health Department, and also in association with what you, the town board thinks under secret. But we will, when that time comes, we'll try and get hooked up with workers that are good at finding the water. A couple of people that I work with too, and they ran want to talk to them. They've been very, very successful at finding water. So that we don't think that'll be it.
So I'm just sort of counting the uses. So you have a 4-family house essentially.
Yeah.
And then how many rooms?
18.
18 rooms. Then the restaurant, cafe type of space.
Restaurant, cafe, maybe a store coffee shop
Right.
in the front.
Yep.
Art gallery, wellness barn, bike shop where we're doing, repairs, rentals, sales of bikes, also e-bikes. A lot of people want e-bikes now. And that's, so far.
So the water usage is primarily though the residential, the guest rooms and the restaurant.
Yeah.
The rest is just going to be toilet and sink, and that's it. So
Yeah, and this plan, after we made these changes, Dennis did everything, actually expanded the size of it.
what's the total acreage of all the parks?
7.2 with the, with the additional.
And well, we can calculate how many different uses it is. I'm just trying to do the math in my head.
I have it right here for you.
Because in the Hamlet district, I knew you would. Okay, well, we can work off this and go from there.
But it is a good point, you know, I thought about doing co-working up market and we ran out of uses. So,
Yeah, well, we'll work toward that.
I maybe know the answer to it. Rail trail running to this property. Is there an easement? Is there?
No, actually, their property, you're not seeing the entire length of this property on this map. It actually, if you looked at the old map that they gave us, it actually continues down. It's like the handle of the X. It continues all the way down to Granite.
Okay.
And that is the section of their property. So the only thing I can potentially see, the county may want to deal more with the rail trail instead of dumping out on where it dumps out on towpath is more the direction of tobacco, but I'm sure we can sort of come up with some solution for that. I'm just thinking because the hope in the future is to continue the rail trail over down either Tobacco Road or potentially that parcel that remains dilapidated. The county pulled that off the auction. They do own it. I don't know what they're going to do with it. But eventually we need to get the trail from where your property over to Tobacco Road in some fashion, preferably not along the actual highway. So, but I'm sure we can maybe come up with a creative way that doesn't impact you and continues on through that, and at least gets it closer to tobacco.
Yeah, we were open.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And maybe it's something as simple as, you know, it comes down from where it is around that and just sort of comes across there or something. I mean, we can work toward a solution to that. I just, to try to avoid dumping people on to have to walk along or ride bike along the public road, if it's feasible. If it's not feasible, that's certainly fine. But
Yeah, I wasn't aware that Tobacco Road was.
well, it's not necessarily, but it's a public way to get it back to the community center. And then once we get back to the community center, we can cut across community center property and then kind of, the hope is to tie it back in to the original trail at some point. We're probably not going to be able to continue the entire original trail. We're going to have to convert and go a different route, but Tobacco Road seems to be the best connector or that other parcel next to it.
That the trail would continue down?
Yeah, the trail would either continue down Tobacco Road or would continue on the land of that parcel next to, across from the train station. Right, because the train station is private ownership and the town abandoned GLF Road, so that is now private ownership as well. So otherwise, where you had it, you know, GLF Road probably was the original trail, is my guess. No, it wasn't, Kate, was it? But the train tracks were in front of the train station?
I think
On Tobacco Road? Yeah.
Right outside
Yeah.
there.
Much more expensive.
Yeah,
This is just the original track. You guys want to do?
yeah, okay. But these are minor improvements. It doesn't, you know, we can certainly work within the buildings and structure and bringing the rail trail through your property is to both our advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think having the bike shop, having the repair shop, that's what sales,
Yep.
hoping that people.
Which
are-
one is the bike shop? I'm just trying to
The
remember.
bike shop is the ground floor,
Okay.
it's all art. So that's all going to be bike shops. So, you know, somebody can park here and grab, you know, 4 bikes for the day.
Okay,
Bike to Minnewaska as opposed to, you know, trying to find parking and leaving or walking 5 miles.
And Mike, who's going to build out the rail trail? That
well, that'll all still be
Granary.
in discussions. That'll be part of the discussion of the site plan.
We're talking about this section or the rest?
this section.
Yeah,
That's not
that's-
part of any.
That's a whole
current plan.
discussion with them, with Mr. Annenberg from OSI, with the town, with the county. To be determined. The fact that they are willing to make it accessible to us with an easement is a great bonus. And then as far as constructing it, that's another story. You may have to go searching grants, but if, you know, it's one of those, if we have the availability of the space, the grants are a lot easier. So, Mary Lou, anything you can think of at this point? You're muted.
I think she said no.
Okay.
Your big red light.
See, I try not to bother you guys.
Yeah,
No, I'm good for now. Thank you.
okay. Michael,
Well,
we'll bring you into the discussion here.
I just have two things. So the first one.
For the board members who don't know, Mike Moriello, attorney for the,
Mike, can you shout?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Two items that came to mind. Now that we've made the application, I was thinking it might be a good idea to have somewhat of a gateway meeting with Dennis Doyle and the county and get their thoughts, especially with regard to the rail trail, the initial layout, everything. I think they're gonna be very, very happy, especially this project, just to let the board know, this project has really come along a lot since the guys got together with Scott. They've done a great job, and the historical aspect of it, it's if you haven't seen the site, you can almost, when you see their plans and then you walk it. Dennis and I did it Saturday morning with them, and you can see it. You can see what it can be. It's really exciting piece of property. So I thought it might be a good idea now that it's formally applied for to have a meeting with Dennis Doyle. And then I guess the secret process will have to have a notice of intent to serve as the agency.
is there a new EAF in this packet?
Yeah, Dennis updated the EAF,
Okay.
yes. It did. And I know that Michael, I'm a control freak, I usually what Michael likes to do his own EAF, it's not, and I mean, for the lead agency, it's not a problem. For me,
I borrowed heavily from your template, just so you know.
What's that?
I said I borrowed heavily from your template over the years, just so you know.
That's good, and if we could get the secret process started tonight, that would be the one hope maybe to do. And then I just wanted to tell the rest of the board too, that the EEO format that you have in your zoning law, and that Rosendale has in theirs, I wish that all of the towns had this. I think that even, especially the new board members, you're gonna see the flexibility that it gives to the town to adapt to projects come before it is really, really important. We are stuck in so many towns with antiquated zoning laws that haven't been updated in 35 years. And this allows for a coordinated process to make allowance provisions and an openness of uses, more flexibility of uses that allows for this kind of a project to happen. If we weren't in this town, this project may not happen. It's happening because of the EEO in a large measure.
Well, we copied very, very heavily from Rosendale. There's not too much change from the Rosendale code.
Well, Mary Lou is one of the original architects of the EEO. I know that.
Yes, yes. And to Michael's point is that's where the flexibility to your question is. It allows us to look at a rehab of a facility that's sat vacant for probably 50 or 60 years, and a new formal use may not fit there, or one use may not fit there, and this allows the ability to work with the applicant, to work with the town to come up with a good solution. Still involves the planning board, still involves the town board, still involves the county, but just brings it all together of how do we do something with this property that sat there, vacant for so long. So
Can I ask, I know that you gave some things to the supervisor at the beginning of your presentation, but I don't, what did you
He
submit?
gave us a new packet of all the forms, Mary Lou, and I'm either
Okay.
gonna get digital versions from them. I'm gonna scan these, so you will get a copy. Michael, the only
Okay,
thing
great.
is the board hasn't seen these yet. I'd like to wait until our next meeting, which is a week from tomorrow, 28th. I am happy to ask the board tonight to do a resolution to request a gateway meeting. I think having that sooner rather than later is a great idea. For the board members who don't know what a gateway meeting is Dennis Hoyle, the county planner, looks at the application, gets all the people who are involved from the county level, from the state level, from the local level. There'll be a representative from our board there. There'll be a representative from the code enforcement office. Mary Lou will be there, a representative of the planning board. And we all sit around the table or do it by Zoom, depending on what they're doing right now. They haven't done one in a while. They maybe move back. It's a round table where everybody talks as a group and figures out solutions to problems. And it works so well in comparison to doing it by email and back and forth and just getting everybody in the same room. And as a member of the county planning board, I did quite a few, and it's a really successful way to handle problems. So it might be good to do that sooner rather than later, because that can identify problems that maybe health department has that may change some of the design before we get too far down the road. So that's the one resolution I'd ask that when we reconvene back, that we pass that one tonight. The seeker I'll bring, and we'll talk about it next Thursday at our meeting. Once everybody gets a chance to look at these, Mary Lou gets a chance to look at it. Are
Mike,
you applying?
I
for
want to
any-
remind you that I'm away next week.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm working on litigation tomorrow and Friday.
Okay.
So as much as I'd like to get the seeker rolling, I think that I'd feel more comfortable if you waited till the regular
The
meeting
7th?
in May. Yes.
I agree. I think it'll work.
Okay. Yep, so we'll do it at the 7th.
Thank you. I
That's
appreciate
fine.
that.
Yep.
Sorry, Mike Moriello.
No, that's fine, Mary.
It can happen simultaneously. The seeker is one part of it, but the gateway meeting can happen,
Yeah, absolutely.
so it's not gonna stop progress. So we'll plan on that. The one question, are you seeking any relief from the IPA on taxation in any way?
We may.
Okay, if you are, then they become an involved agency as well.
We listed
You
them as
listed them.
involved for
Okay.
now, like,
Okay.
until we take it from there.
Okay.
Yeah, and we talked to them.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to check, because that's one, sometimes people don't think about it, and then down the road, oh, I'm gonna apply, and then we have to reopen. So I figured you had already thought about it, but I know in the original application it wasn't there, so I wanted to just clarify.
Mike Moriello, could you ask, I assume Scott Dutton is the one who has these plans on his computer. Could you ask him to send it to me digitally? And because this is what Mike Moriello and I do, I'll look at it on vacation.
Yeah, no problem.
Mike and I are very, very bad at vacation.
And Mary Lou, I'll scan a copy of all this other to you, and then.
We have digital of all.
Oh, you have digital?
Well,
Okay. If you can email that to me tomorrow,
I
that'd be
don't
great.
really see anybody typewriter.
Yeah. Do you have digital versions of all this available?
I do not have digital versions yet, but Dennis.
He does.
Yeah.
Dennis Larios?
Yes, I'll get Dennis, I'll get it.
Just ask his office to, yeah, because the woman who from his office contacted me originally, I emailed her the other day, and apparently she's no longer with the office, but it did get forwarded to somebody else in the office.
And if Dennis has an extra copy there, I can just up tomorrow and pick one up if that's acceptable.
Because I have 8 here right now, Mary Lou, and that'll be the 5 board members, and Kate is 6, and I will need copies to send to county and all that, but they probably are gonna want.
Right, I actually prefer paper copies. So if in the next day or two, I can pick that up with Dennis, I'll pack them up and bring them to Cape Cod.
Mary Lou, where are you located? Because I have to pick up tax bills in the morning. I could drop to.
I won't be here.
Oh.
I'll be at a meeting, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Include site plan, cool uses.
Yep.
She got.
So
Hey,
you
you know
gave,
what?
all the
Michael,
board members got one already, right?
Michael
Yeah.
Moriello, are you in your
No, that's
office
okay.
tomorrow?
Actually, why don't I do that right now?
Yep.
Each of you.
Mike, are
Yeah.
you or someone in your office tomorrow?
Yes, I'm there, yeah.
Okay, hand my copy to Mike Moriello and I'll stop at his office tomorrow and pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
easy.
so she'll need that.
Yeah, no, this is the
Oh.
site plan, but I just don't know.
And you have another copy of
I
this?
do not, but,
I'll tell you what, I'll get a copy from you.
is that okay?
Yep, I'll get a copy from Kate tomorrow. I know where she works.
Thank
Good,
you,
and then
Michael.
I can do more, and I can keep these as well, right?
Sure.
Beautiful. Okay.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I am totally stoked about this project ever since you and I talked about it last year. And I too have made it a personal goal to really try to bring back Main Street Accord. So anything I can do to help you guys along with this, feel free to reach out to me. I am, as town historian, I'm smiling.
And I'm sure those receipts and things that you found on the floor, if you are not looking to keep them for any reason, could make their way to the museum. No, I'm happy to say that, although I know the museum is already a little cramped, but that's great stuff to have at the museum.
Have you been inside?
No.
Oh, okay, well, let's start there.
And then obviously your addition to video. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah,
else
for us.
I can do, but I'm so excited about this.
Heritage Day, can't do anything.
It's all been going through my head as you're
And,
talking.
and just for any of the public that are watching, to clarify in the video, they talked about letters from myself and other agencies. That was in support of a grant application that they were applying for. Just to clarify, it was not saying that necessarily of the project, but supported the grant application to fund the project. So just wanted to clarify that.
Michael, do you want to call Dennis's office at the gateway? I mean.
I will. I'll reach out to Dennis and get him. What I hope from you, Ren, is if you can get me tomorrow the emails or contact info of anybody that should be from your team, who should be sent an invitation to that gateway meeting.
Yep.
Because what will happen, Rob Leibowitz from the county will put together a survey of possible times.
Yep.
And send that out. And so anybody who on your team should be or needs to be at that, just
Absolutely.
email is the best way. So email addresses of anybody.
Okay, come on.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We look
Wow.
forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you all.
You guys said you're not gonna be selling anything, selling grain, but I'm sure multi-grain muffins, beers made of grain.
There you go.
There you go.
I wanted you to say it, not me.
There you go.
Charlotte, before we go.
No, I just read, you're good. That's why I didn't even notice this.
Okay, moving forward. The next on the agenda was the Edward Speedway discussion. Obviously, since we've kept the public hearing comments open, we won't be discussing that. Yes, oh, we should. Let's do that. I would make a resolution to authorize the supervisor to request a gateway meeting be established by the county planning department for the granary project.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, and then just take a look and then we'll put the next discussion on this on our agenda for the 7th. Next, the ADU law. I know Aaron emailed everybody, but I did print out copies of the latest version for everybody. Mary Lou, I emailed it to you today. It's under a heading called backup for meeting.
And she was on my email too.
So Aaron has made some changes.
Yeah, we have a couple things I think to discuss.
This has all the changes.
This has all the
This
changes.
is all the red
I
lines.
also made a non-red line version. 'Cause I watched the meeting again and you guys had asked for that. And so I have a digital cleaned up version. It's just this. So should I just dive into the things that we need to discuss because we went through it?
Yeah, I don't think we need to go through it
Okay.
line by line
Right.
again. I think we just want to talk about
Yeah.
sorry, I just want to
Okay.
separate these so I know which one is mine and which one is.
So
Okay.
we had the public hearing, then we had a discussion. I made some edits. We had our meeting 2 weeks ago where we discussed those. We, as a board, accepted a lot of them, but then there were a couple places where there were some discussion points. I had a,
Could I throw one thing before we get too deep into
Yeah.
it? Under the purpose and intent, I've thought about this a lot. And I heard it in our public hearing that a lot of people were confused as to what an ADU is. And I think in the purpose and intent, maybe, I don't know if it's the right place, but I feel like it is to say that this only applies if the property doesn't have the density to build another structure.
so that's when I brought that up to the code enforcement officer. And he was he said that he didn't think it was an issue. That they haven't been classifying other dwelling accessory.
Okay,
That-
that was just a
That was a
misunderstanding.
misunderstanding. I asked him about it. He also said that he thought that it was probably better to give the people the choice. Because, and I don't know if this is true, he was talking about lot development standards. If you have the acreage, they advise people to build it with, like, if you could subdivide.
Right,
So it kind of forced people to make that choice.
yeah, I'm just worried if the law doesn't say it, advising is one thing, but if the law says it, then it's memorialized. That's my only concern. Because advising can change from one person to the
Well,
next.
no, I'm saying, well, I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know why we would, if someone has enough acreage to build another dwelling, I don't know why we would say they don't get to have a choice. Because we don't tell people whether or not what size shed build.
No, we don't, but it's not, if you have the acreage, it's not an accessory dwelling.
No, they could.
If it meets the size
Shouldn't be,
requirements,
though.
and if it,
Why shouldn't it be?
Well, see, I look at the accessory dwelling as kind of a bonus. You know, you want to build something, but you don't have the acreage. Because if you build an accessory dwelling on property, then somebody may think, well, I can build another full dwelling. You know, if they build it close to the house or something, to the existing house, and they say they have 6 more acres in the back, then, oh, well, or that's a big example. So they have 2 more acres. Oh, I'm gonna build another house now in the back. That's an accessory dwelling. I sort of feel like the accessory dwelling is if you don't have the acreage to build another dwelling, then you can build an accessory dwelling.
but then aren't we making a choice for people about what they do in the future also?
Yeah, and I think we should be though.
And
Well, look
if
at
you
the-
have enough acreage to have more than one dwelling as of right, you may just have 2 primary dwellings or 3 primary
Right, and
dwellings.
but that's what I'm trying to say, Mary.
No, I know, Mike. I'm saying the exact same thing you're saying. I'm supporting what you're saying.
Yeah.
You
Disagree.
don't need to say one is accessory because they're all allowed.
Right, but I disagree because you could also have a scenario, let's say you have an R1, you have a 2-acre parcel on it, and you have a house on your 2-acre parcel, and I want to build an accessory dwelling unit. If we say that's a second property, let's say you want to subdivide that into 2 1-acre parcels. Now you have to go through the process of saying, no, that's not a second dwelling, because you can't keep that dwelling with the primary
If
dwelling.
you're gonna subdivide after you build that dwelling, you can keep it with it.
But then you have to
Yeah,
Declare
you don't
it
have
as an
to
ADU.
subdivide. If you have enough acreage, you don't have to, you don't have to
No,
subdivide.
but what I'm saying is you want to subdivide off vacant land and keep that secondary dwelling with the ADU. But now you can't do that because it's not already declared an ADU. Now you're putting 2 primary dwellings on 1 acre.
Well,
that are
that's part of why there's a variance process though, too.
But why not just let them declare it as an ADU when they want to build a structure, if that's what they want to do, and then be bound by the rules of the ADU?
Well, I
Law.
think that kind of,
Because you can't rent it out as an STR. I mean,
yeah.
I guess I hadn't seen that in any of the other codes. And it wasn't clear to me why we wouldn't.
Well, a lot of other codes don't let you build a second structure on a lot, even if you have the acreage. We're a rarity that we do.
I think that we're getting into something that is not gonna be too high of an example of things that happen there.
No, I see it being taken advantage of, to be honest.
But if they have the density to build a second property, a second structure anyway, and it's like a moot point, like that's what I'm saying.
But
like,
I'm
just
talking
specify
for
that
future,
it
because if
has
you
to-
declare it an ADU, and then they have what Michael said, the 2-acre parcel, where they build one, and okay, now I'm gonna subdivide off an acre and put another house here. That kind of,
That's
But
allowed.
they
Well,
would
you
be
could do
allowed
that
to anyway.
Yeah, and then they could add an ADU to that
But,
subdivided
yeah,
section.
they have 2
Yeah.
technically, where this way they are only allowed to have the 1. So I think it's getting too specific, again, like me and Michael have been about certain examples, like that, like 3 meetings ago.
Well,
Listen,
well, no, but it's, there comes a point where you have to be mindful of water and septic too and everything. I know they have to show. See, water, it really becomes the issue, because water, once the well is there, the health
So-
department doesn't get involved.
Well, so I guess what I guess I was thinking of too is, so, okay, I have 10 acres, I'm an R2. If I wanted to build, if we're saying you can only build an accessory dwelling if you only meet the density requirements for your principal use, then I would build another principal home in that case. So say I did that 4 times, then on the 5th time, I could build an ADU. So I guess what I don't, because at that point,
Well, maybe you could, but maybe you don't have water and sewer to build that extra house. Because every time you build another principal dwelling unit, you have to show we have water.
but if I did, I could. I guess there's nothing in the law saying that.
No, there's not, but.
We're saying you can have one.
But there's a reason we have density in our schedule, and the ADU is meant to be a one-time bonus, not a bonus whenever you choose to use it kind of thing. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say.
didn't we, because we made density, make other restrictions in the law the last meeting?
Not really. You gotta meet setbacks, but that's the only,
We took out density, like the original had a density
Right.
of 0.5, and then we took that out. And I mean, I can look back at the old meeting and come through it, but I know that we.
no, it's
Specifically
actually still
restricted.
here. It's still showing because I didn't remove everything. so. But,
Well, we still have the debate about square footage.
Yeah. We also
Yeah.
didn't agree about the size cap.
no,
So-
but I think we need to sort of settle this
Yeah, so
before we go further about the rest.
yeah, I guess from our perspective, I'm not sure what good comes of that.
I guess what I don't want to see is what happened in Marbletown, because they had people coming in with subdivision, building a house, and go, okay, this is an accessory dwelling. And everything became a 2-structure lot
Right.
immediately, and, that's, I just look at it as if you have the acreage to build a second unit or a third unit, you utilize that acreage. You don't have to physically utilize that acreage because it's on the same parcel. But you utilize, we can advise them to build it so you can subdivide in the future. But we can't force them to do that. That's up to them, as long as they meet distance requirements between structures. And then if they wanted to subdivide in the future and they didn't plan it well enough, then they're kind of out of luck. But I just feel like the accessory dwelling unit is meant to create, it's kind of, I'm not sure how to say this. It's kind of the problem we had with the mother-daughter apartments, is that everybody was building these things and they were being utilized by relatives for a very short amount of time. And then suddenly we had all these rental units and other homes that, people were actually, I know we need housing, but I just don't know that density is what we're looking for.
I don't know how forcing someone to do another primary residence that was protecting us. I agree that that's a concern, and I share that concern.
Yeah.
But I just
Well, the way it's
don't know.
protecting us is, you can build the accessory dwelling if you don't have the acreage, but then once you build your accessory dwelling, you're pretty much done, because now you have two structures. Let's just say for example, you had 3 acres and you were in a 2-acre density. You can build this accessory dwelling. Well, let's say you had 4 acres. You can build this accessory dwelling and you're done. You've got 2 structures on 4 acres. Whereas the other way is you can build, I have a principal structure. Now I'm going to build an accessory dwelling. And now I got 2 acres left over here. I'm going to build a third dwelling.
And you can still do that with the way the law is written.
Yeah, I guess you could.
Yeah, we don't have a cap on dwellings, like
Yeah.
marble, somewhat.
And maybe that's more the solution, is having a cap on the number of dwellings
Per district.
But then we're getting back to where we're saying the density can't be greater than half or a third or whatever we
Right.
set it at.
Right.
Maybe we go back on what the county suggested and bring back a
Yeah,
density.
well, the county's suggesting that because they are very concerned about the housing crisis, and I understand, but I also understand houses last a long time, structures last a long time, and that housing crisis is, 20 years ago, we were saying, we don't want to do this, and now we've gone full circle, and now we want to do it again.
Right.
20 years from now, these structures aren't going to be gone, is the question then, do we not want them again?
Right.
That's my fear, is we're solving a specific time problem, but we got to look at the long-term ramifications of what we're doing.
Yeah, so while we're talking about density, I spoke with Jerry. We talked a little bit about water use and septic, and in my emails, guys, I didn't put it in the draft because I felt like we hadn't discussed it. But his concern is, water usage and septic is based on number of bedrooms.
Yep.
So, if you have a 2-bedroom home and you're building a 2-bedroom accessory dwelling, you're multiplying, the number of individuals. You're doubling that basically. So the concern is the drilling of wells and the so I sent in an email, like, maybe there's a way that we could say, if you're in the low well yield area, which I don't know, we have that map in our.
Yeah, that map though is 20 years out.
Yeah.
Now.
Okay.
One idea just popped in my head though. Why don't we say that if you're building accessory dwelling, if feasible, you have to tie it into the original well or septic.
Yeah,
Because you have to at least explore that idea first.
I would say well more than that.
Yeah, because an accessory dwelling is staying on the same lot.
Right.
So if they're a shared well, in theory, it's not intended to be ever divided.
Right.
So in theory, you can do a
Right.
shared well and or a shared septic with no issue, because you shouldn't be looking, it should always be associated as an accessory dwelling, it should always be subordinate to that main structure.
And make it incredibly
Yeah.
difficult to subdivide or
Yeah.
to separate.
Yes.
two.
Yes.
That's
And
fine.
maybe we say that, you know, you have to explore the possibility of that first before you go drilling a new well or septic. Then I would be more in line with
Yeah.
the idea of saying,
Yeah, well, so this is what I was thinking too. We wouldn't want people to subdivide off, so, but how would we write that? That would be in the,
well, we basically would have to say, they would have to prove to the code enforcement officer that they couldn't combine it with the existing. I think,
Why
you
not
know,
just mandate it?
well, because it may not be physically possible. It may have already reached its extreme. You may have to build another septic area, or you may have
or
to
enlarge.
enlarge. Yeah, I mean, you sometimes paying to enlarge one is probably more expensive than just creating a new one for the new unit.
I'm more talking about water because I'm less concerned about septic.
Yeah, and that, what, like we
Well,
discussed,
septic, you have to get county permit. on
yeah,
that.
septic is, there's a regulatory body, there's a process, water,
Water,
there
there's
isn't,
not.
and that's the tricky one. So, and one of the things that Jerry and I talked about was ADUs that are built inside the home. They tend to, because you're usually taking away bedrooms, they have the lower impact.
Right, I would agree.
And so that's another idea about detached versus interior. The detached are gonna, for sure, be adding in terms of.
They're just gonna add into the existing water and septic problem. You know, we're kind of back in the same discussion we had during short-term rentals is, you know, and I've had the same discussion with the Olive supervisor. He's asked these questions because being in the DEP region, they're very concerned with septic and water. And, you know, he said to me, the county doesn't regulate water.
No.
Other than when you drill a well, you have to get approval. But if you're just tapping into an existing well, you can do that.
So,
And so maybe we go with what Michael said. We require you, if you're doing an ADU, we require you to share the water source of the primary dwelling.
It's also gonna mean that the ADU needs to be closer to the primary residence.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
enforce it there.
but the issue is that there are some standards for water usage with well capacity.
Right.
So we should, I guess, put that in the law.
Well, we
'Cause
could
if you
say,
don't
we
meet
could
that, then
say
you can't
it
share it well.
shall unless proven not feasible or something, but, you know, by,
And then they
unless
apply for a
unless
waiver,
documents, I mean, we can come up with the language. Mary Lou can maybe help us, but
and they would apply for a waiver.
they wouldn't even have to apply for a waiver. If you can't do it, then they could throw another well. But if they have to show that they can't tie into the system, which means they would have to go to an engineer who would study this and say, you don't have enough gallons per minute to support another structure, then you could, but have to have how about we say, just like we say, when you do a subdivision, you have to have a signed document by a licensed engineer saying it will support water. Do the counter to this, say you have a signed letter from a licensed engineer saying you cannot tie into the existing water system, but it's got to be from a licensed engineer.
But in that case, though, the only concern I have is we wouldn't be preventing anyone from drilling additional wells.
No, but
We're
if,
just saying that,
well, no, we would, well, but we say they must tie into the system unless the licensed engineer says they can't.
so for the people.
Then if they have to drill a new well, they have to go to the county health department to drill a new well.
Okay,
Because you do have to go to the county
I
health department
I see
to
what you're
drill a
saying.
new well.
because most people wouldn't want to have to drill a new well, because it's very,
Right.
so, but I see what you're saying. Then if you drill a new well, then you have to show that the water
You have,
meets the minimum standards that
Right.
they've set.
Right.
Which I did look those up.
Yeah.
Okay,
does that make sense?
it does,
We say you have to prove to us that you can't tie into the existing system by virtue of a letter from a licensed engineer saying, certifying that it's not feasible. And then you can move forward with drilling a new well then.
okay, Mike.
Septic,
Start. I'm gonna take notes.
sure. The water system of an accessory dwelling unit shall be connected to the water system of the primary dwelling unit. Unless a letter is received signed by a licensed engineer stating such connection is not feasible.
Unless a
Don't say
licensed
stating, say certifying.
Certifying.
licensed engineer
Thank you,
provides
Mary
a
Lou.
letter
Certifying.
Welcome.
Such connection is not feasible. And then you can say, if such connection is not feasible, the alternative, a new water source must be reviewed by, and then you've done the research on who has to review.
Yes,
Right,
yeah,
So,
okay, yeah.
And
With
then
utility
septic-
well, there's regulation on it, but. building
right,
something.
and septic, I think we can say they have the option of tying into the existing system or creating new.
Yeah, I think we should keep the septic the same.
Yeah.
Because that's already, they'll say whether or not.
I mean, some people may want to tie in the existing system. It makes sense if you can, if you
But
have
they
enough.
need to have the right size.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But see, that's where the county doesn't, if you have a septic system, the county doesn't get involved in an existing system. The county only reviews new systems. And that's where the issue is up in Olive.
Mhm.
And these short-term rentals that are now exceeding the usage for the capacity of the systems. And the county won't inspect.
I think for new builds,
The CEO would have to sign off.
yeah, for new builds, they do. For new construction of a dwelling, they'll
Good
say.
point. For you, good
And if
point.
you don't know what the system is, they go by the number of bedrooms.
Okay, yeah, good point. For a new build, they
Yeah.
will, you're right. Okay,
Okay,
yeah, because the short-term rental is existing and that's why they won't get.
okay, I'm very happy with that.
Do you want to back up to your other changes? I'm sorry, I jumped a
So
second.
there's only two other points that we were different from our last time. Okay, so I reviewed the definition. Mike sent me two definitions. Definition was like the same, so I think the definition's good. I read it to Jerry, he said it was good.
Yeah, I found those online.
And then everything else we accepted, except we get to lot requirements. And then this was the thing, this was to the point that we were talking about before we talked about water, which is, I brought that one section up, said provisions for parcels large enough to accommodate multiple principal uses. We discussed this last time. There was some stuff you guys told me to keep in and some to edit. So I stuck it in the lot requirements. When constructing, and then this is sort of what we were just talking about. When constructing a new dwelling unit on a lot that contains an existing dwelling unit and where sufficient acreage exists to support multiple principal uses, the owner can specify whether the new unit is to be constructed under the provisions governing ADUs or as an additional principal dwelling. Principal dwellings are subject to density. That's standards of the zoning district which they're located. So that is what we were just talking about. And then if someone is building an ADU, they have to do it in accordance with this law.
Right, except, so accessory dwellings are still subject to the development standards with the exception of density, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just worried that last sentence will.
That's why I said I should say both density.
Okay,
So meaning it's just a qualifying statement
Right.
saying a principal dwelling would count against your
Yep.
unit acreage.
well, you say that in the definition of principal dwelling up top.
We can take that out if you guys want. It is repetitive.
Yeah, it probably shouldn't be in the definition, because that's not really a definition of a principal dwelling. That's a standard of a principal dwelling.
So I would delete it in the definition.
Yeah.
Okay.
but take that same language and put it down at the bottom in place of the other language, and I think you got it.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the other thing, the hot button topic was
Size.
size. Okay. I have a new perspective on this after speaking with Jerry and thinking about it. I think that we should put a smaller cap on, based on what we were just talking about the future of the town, that we are trying to allow an affordable, small subordinate structure. And one of the things, and that I talked to Jerry about, the 2-bedroom thing is good. And water usage and septic goes off of number of bedrooms. The 2-bedroom cap, great. But what he pointed out is where you're gonna get into trouble with the bigger size is that I know it's not allowed, but we're gonna use these as short-term rentals. And if you have, the bigger we allow, the more exploitation can happen with this
Or
allowance.
people are gonna convert family rooms into
Yes,
bedrooms.
and we're
without
gonna, and
anybody
he was like,
knowing.
we're gonna have 10 people staying in these, and he's like, well, this is another topic, is, you know,
Yeah.
enforcement of our STR laws, another topic, but I was very compelled by that argument. So he was saying, make it smaller that way.
Yeah.
The use is exactly what you're intending it. So I was thinking between 900 and 1200. I looked at a lot of great plans for 900 and under square foot homes. That's what we had originally. That's what's in a lot of the laws.
We're at 750.
Originally it was 750. Then when we,
Then we
as a
went to
board,
900.
when we started considering it, we said 900. But I just, I would support 900. We can always change it if we need to. He thought that 350 square feet was not a problem. He said that number.
No, and
was
that's the
fine.
minimum to get a C of O, so
Yeah.
it can be done, and if somebody wants to build something that's small,
Yeah,
why
it's gotta
stop
be
them?
on a permanent foundation, and
yeah.
that's how he felt. He
Yeah.
also said, you know, if it's inside someone's house, if it's an upstairs, 350 is, you know.
Well, does the minimum square footage, if you're building an addition on a structure, well, it's gonna be accessory dwelling, so you have to
It's
have
still-
a bedroom, a kitchen.
Yeah.
You're probably up to the 350 just with the addition
Yes,
of those.
the minimum is 240, but we didn't want to go that low because that's like. But everything has to be to,
The tiny house craze to seem to have died out.
yeah, and also like, we don't allow people to live in structures on wheels. So anything has to be on a permanent foundation. So if someone wants to live in a very small house on a permanent foundation, they can. As long as the rooms meet the minimum size standards, oh yeah, I'm supposed to quote this. Oops. Section 304R of the,
What does the board think? 900, 1,000? 1,200? I can live with the 900.
9 or less.
Yeah, I think 9 is the way to go.
Well, what's that based on?
A lot of other codes.
also, I looked up floor plans. So like, the small manufactured homes are range between 600 and 1,000 square feet for like the big 2-bedroom.
And that's a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, and I looked at a lot of
manufactured,
plans
Or
for like
modulars,
other, yeah.
which some of these might be. People might want down a modular because you can put them up in a week.
I was looking at, you know, there's a lot of municipalities, and this would be something for our housing advisory committee that provide stamped plans for, you know, 650 square. But 900, also like my house, the footprint is 900, and I feel like it's big for like, it's not big, but I'm just saying when I'm sitting in my living room, I'm like, this is big. It has 4 bedrooms.
Did we you said before 2 bedrooms. Did we limit it to 2 bedrooms?
We did. We upped it from 1 to 2.
Yeah. Where did we do that?
Nine hundred is still big.
I was gonna say that too, you know, a lot of single wide trailers are less than 900, and they could be a 3-bedroom house, 2-bathroom, a kitchen and a living room. So, you know, I think for the purpose.
Yeah, I
that
don't,
you're
I don't
seeking-
think we said it.
Is it in the definition?
I don't think we said 2 bedroom. That's why I know I thought we took out the number of it.
We took out,
I thought we had it for 1 and people wanted us to make it so that we could do 2. But I don't know.
that was already.
Yeah, I thought we did a max to,
I don't see it.
Well, then I think we should do a max of 2. But, because that was in my head.
Yeah, bear in mind, it's supposed to be an accessory dwelling. Essentially, yes, it can be a rental, but meant to be a lesser cost unit. It's not really meant to be a 3-bedroom apartment or a 3-bedroom house.
I mean,
And also, it's going to encourage it, and netting 2 bedrooms are not all that available anymore either. Are you?
No, there's nothing,
Yeah.
the most desirable is 2-bedroom, houses,
Yeah.
there's 0 inventory.
I think this also, I mean, I don't, part of it.
I'm okay with adding in the 2-bedroom somewhere,
Okay.
but I don't.
What's the definitions? We had the 1-bedroom in the definitions,
Yeah.
and then that's deleted.
I don't know why.
I don't think it should be in the definition.
That in the floor area.
Why does it matter if we're gonna have the square footage? If you have, if they're valid bedrooms. I mean, if we set the square footage cap correctly.
Well, I would hate for, so the minimum bedroom
I
size.
changed my mind. Bedrooms.
Oh,
I agree, we're not looking to add an additional single family home.
Right. If you want to add an additional single-family home, then put a second structure on your property. The key is accessory dwelling.
I would go for a lower square. I would go for 750, back to 750 or 8. If they're completely accessory.
I would. Should
Nine's
we,
big.
should we
Nine's
go around the table?
I'm okay with 9. I wouldn't go higher than 9, but I'm okay with
I have a 900 square foot rental, and I think it's in the eye of the beholder. I've had people from the city come up and are amazed by how gigantic 900 square feet is. I've also had families of 6 trying to move. Like I said, I wouldn't be comfortable going less than 900.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna try to fit a tiny, like a big, large family, like I grew up across the street, so I had 10 people in a single wide trailer. Like, if you want to put many people in a house and try to like them rules like 900, especially if we're limiting it to 2 bedrooms. Like, I've been having a 2-bedroom limit with 900. So I think more
Well, bear in
than limit, then cutting it down would be appropriate if we weren't gonna put a bedroom.
There are going to be rental situations though. So if somebody's trying to cram 10 people into a rental situation, the landlord is going to probably be aware of it.
But the difference is, does the landlord care?
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
I'm telling you, you get a truck full of people showing up to the house going, this is perfect. Who gets it? You know? So,
There's
you
like
know,
next 3 families
but it-
in the food pantry that live like that.
Well, the thing about, the beautiful thing about this law is that it is written for residents and homeowners in our community, and they're the ones who are gonna make the choice as to who they're renting it to. It's not one person making a decision for like 100 units, it's each individual.
Yeah.
So,
It is required that you live on top.
yes.
The owner must have.
Yeah, I think with 2 bedrooms in there, I'm not opposed to 900 as long as we have 2 bedrooms, like the limited bedrooms, because then they can have a larger living area, larger kitchen, bathroom, it gives them a hell of a big.
I think they're going to add the 2-bedroom. I would add it in construction.
Yeah.
That seems to be the best place to add it.
I think if we want them that size, we should consider some kind of density control. Whether that's a cap on how many we do a year, or that's.
What's the difference in doing 100?
I think 800 is better than that. And 900 is
But
down.
all these numbers are just arbitrary, just picking them out of the air. so
Yeah, I
it
mean,
really doesn't matter,
150 square feet is essentially a little bit bigger living. Well, no,
So
it's another room.
It's not exactly arbitrary. I looked at about, I don't know, 15 different home designs. When you get above 900 square feet is when you get 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
So that's where I was looking at like 1,200 feet, those are pretty standard 3 bedrooms. 900 to 800 to 1,000 is your like pretty solid 2 bedroom.
Well, that's where to me 900 works. But
So it wasn't exactly, I hear what you're saying, not exactly arbitrary, but it's sort of thinking of 2 bedrooms in terms of like density, like what impact are we having on density? Not wanting to go above 2 bedrooms. I'm happy to leave it 900 with the 2 bedroom cap.
yeah, and you'll add that cap in the
Yeah.
construction section.
So that only one of us is a little unhappy with that.
I don't want to qualify how I'm happy.
Oh, no. Sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that. I meant everyone else.
I think it's too big. but
Only
it's
one
fine.
person disagrees.
Only one person disagrees. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to qualify you.
I will temporarily retreat.
We hear you. You're concerned.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the only other thing like that I put in my email was the concern about water. I like what we did with the well. And then the other thing that I saw in the Marbletown law is they have a cap, a permit cap. So if we had concerns, like we're ministerially allowing the construction of like 2,200 houses in our town. And if if there's a concern about pace of development, we could put a cap carve out, which means we don't have to put a cap in this law at all. We could just give
That
ourselves.
may be the way to go.
the
And if we
option.
see it being an issue down the road, we can always just, what was Marbletown's cap?
Only 50, which I would want ours to be more than that. If
Well, we have about 4,000 parcels.
Like 400, I think. Yeah.
And residential of that is probably around 2,500.
And then we're allowing 200 STRs.
Yeah.
4,800.
I kind of like the idea of giving ourselves the ability to put a cap in and not necessarily putting one in immediately. And
Yeah,
giving ourselves the ability.
that you wouldn't have to update the
Yeah.
local law.
The town board may install a yearly cap of number of permits. Is there a certain way that should be phrased, Mary Lou? Muted.
The town board, I don't know if you want to do it annually or from time to time, shall have the ability to set a cap on the number of ADUs by resolution.
Should you say, yeah, but I think you should say the number of permits issued for a certain duration. Otherwise, it's, we could just, us or a future town board could suddenly go, oh, 50 is too much. I think it should be that there should be a qualifier as to an annual review, and the town board has the ability to set a cap. Should we just ask for an annual report from the code enforcement office and at the organizational meeting? Set a cap for the number, well, no, because that if suddenly 40 spring up and then we're in trouble, yeah. You don't want to limit us, but.
Don't have a trigger for it if it
Yeah.
exceeds 50 to go under review.
Well, I don't know that 50 is a huge impact, but.
No, but that would trigger the review. So
I think we just need to get the town board the ability to set a cap, to set an annual cap on number of permits by a number of new permits by resolution.
Right, so they can only do it once a year and they can only do it for a year.
Because maybe we get a whole big rush of new single or two family dwellings, not ADUs, and we go, oh, we need to scale back on the 12. The ADUs, we don't need them right
Right. And, you know, goes to your point earlier about, you know, this is a, you know, hopefully a time-bound situation, so to have the flexibility built into the law.
now. Yeah,
The town board shall have the ability.
yeah, this should probably be the very last item on the law.
Yeah. On the
The town board shall,
section 1 of the law.
to say town board shall have or reserves the ability? No, just
I would
shall
say,
have. Shall have the ability to assess, institute an annual cap of number of permits, or an annual, a cap of number of permits issued annually. And we get the intent, if we find better language, tweaking that language
Yeah.
for adoption is the intent is already there.
Mary Lou, so should this go in section 1, the last item, so like, or should it be its own section after effective date? We have the.
no, it should be in section 1 as its own.
Okay.
Throw in another letter.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it should just be the last
Yeah.
Make
letter.
it end.
And section 2 is the schedule. Section
Yep.
2 is the part about the amendment of it got cut off here, but. Yeah, and then section 3 and, yeah.
Okay, so you guys, we can,
In order to try to get this to the county for their May meeting, can the board approve it based on this discussion tonight? To refer it to the county and the local planning board, Mary Lou? Or do we have to have the finished product in our
Well,
hands?
you can say to do it as amended at this meeting.
Okay. So I would
That's-
make a motion to refer the as amended at this meeting, local law. And actually, I'm gonna change it now to letter B, because we're not
Yeah.
gonna get this done before the other one, so it's no longer gonna be one, so it's gonna be local law B of 2022, accessory dwelling units, to refer to the Ulster County Planning Board and the town of Rochester.
And you're gonna need to get that to them by Friday, I think, right? To make your 12 days.
Yeah, Rob, will- because it's a re-referral, Rob will give a lot of leeway. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
who seconded that? I
Sorry.
did.
Do we want to set public hearing?
Yeah.
We can't do it for the 28th, none of time. Do we want to do it at our meeting on the 7th? Do we want to do it at our meeting on the
Workshop.
19th, or do we want to wait and do it at the May?
Don't forget, you have to refer it to our planning board as well.
I just did that in the same resolution.
I'm sorry, that part didn't come through. Sorry.
Yep, I did it, same resolution.
Like, the 7th is a Saturday.
Okay, 5th, sorry.
I just made sure,
No.
but I was like.
So
I
it'll be
heard
the
something
5th.
wrong here.
Or the 19th, or no, 5th or the 18th, or the 26th.
I like putting it with the, after the audit meetings and for the public hearings.
Yep.
It seems to make it really easy, like a more shorter.
It's fine with
so the other
me.
ones don't get
I
extended.
don't want to keep doing that.
And then we have
So,
time for the planning board, our planning board to review it as
And the
well, and
county.
get their answers in the county, get the answers back first.
Yep. okay, so make a motion then, this list for public hearing on May 26th.
Isn't it 26 days? Oh, they're
No.
not the 4th Thursday?
Good question.
That's the 4th Thursday.
It is the 4th Thursday,
Yeah,
but
I
I don't remember what the grievance day is. Otherwise, one of us, we have to move our meeting. I don't remember. The grievance in Rochester though is different
May
than,
26th,
it is May 26th?
grievance information 2022. May 26th, 4 p.m. to 8:30.
Okay, so, can people make the meeting on Wednesday, the 25th then?
Like our audit.
We'll
meeting.
move our audit meeting, we'll do another resolution in a minute to do that, but, or we can actually do that resolution on our regular May meeting, but what we do tonight, there's no reason not to.
I do, it's not just looking at it.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, but I am due on the 21st. So
Understood.
I
25th, 26th.
like on time and they hold out another week, sure.
I'm out of town.
You're at town 25th? Okay. Well, either way, we're gonna have to figure out how to pay the bill.
So the Friday.
Keep going on, Friday.
Yeah.
We already got it.
A Friday before Memorial Day.
I love it. It's great. Even better.
Not a chance.
No one will come.
Did
Let people come.
anyone be opposed to Tuesday?
The day after Memorial Day.
Yeah.
You know, we have often moved our audits to the,
Like I said, I'm most likely not gonna be there, but I'm trying to help everyone out.
well, we'll know better.
Yeah.
soon if we can do it virtually or not, but,
Yeah.
okay. So we'll make a motion then to schedule the public hearing for Tuesday, May 31st at 7 p.m. Should we keep it at 7?
That's fair.
Yeah.
We have enough time to go through it.
Yeah. At the Harold Lipton Community Center and request the town clerk to circulate notice to the public.
We wanted to do 7:30 because we got in a pinch last time with signing bills, or was that?
Well, I have a feeling we're gonna have more public hearings, and I don't know that we wanna, you know, we can always stop the bills and go back to them after. So.
Also, I'm never
That was an
virtually, I'm not
unusual
thinking
volume.
That was a large number of volume, so. Yeah,
It'll also be shortened, because if I only attend virtually, I'm not gonna be here to sign bills.
let's set it at 7.
7:30.
Let's set it at 7.
I don't
Bear in
think
mind
we
too,
need
we
to
only
do
had
that.
3 people come speak, and I don't know if we're gonna have the same, and maybe nobody comes and speaks. so. Okay, so the motion is to hold the public hearing Tuesday, May 31st. Oh, that's not the ECC meeting night, is it?
It's-
24th, or the 4th
I
Thursday?
think the 4th or the last
Uh,
oh my gosh.
Tuesday the 4th.
Tuesday, yeah.
Moving this.
Well, in a minute, we'll find out in a minute.
That's
'cause I
the-
can't set-
That's the 5th Tuesday.
I know, but I want to make sure that their meeting's the 4th and not last Tuesday.
Is the ECC?
Last, it's the last
It
Tuesday.
is the last Tuesday.
Can we move it to that Tuesday before then?
Then we're back to the 24th.
And you're out of town.
Not the 25th.
Actually, the 25th was actually, I could swap around. I could do the 25th if that works.
Okay.
The Wednesday, the 25th.
Yeah.
Can you do the 25th?
As of right now, yeah.
Okay, well, we know.
Yeah.
You can do the 25th, I can.
Apparently.
It's not really my choice. Half of our
Yeah, I know,
choices
I
was on
understand.
here. Yeah, not- All right, for the 25th.
Well, as soon as you get that crib, anyway.
Yeah, as soon as then they're gonna come.
Now that I've said that, I'll make sure. Yeah, I can, so. Okay. Motion to hold, schedule the public hearing Wednesday, May 25th at 7 p.m. at the Harold Lipton Community Center, and asking the town clerk to circulate notice. I'll make that motion. Took longer to do that than it did to get the law. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Write this right on top.
So should I follow up with a motion to reschedule our audit meeting
Yes.
for Wednesday, May 25th at 6 p.m. And for the town clerk, at the Harold Lipton Community Center, the town. clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next agenda item.
Wait, are you gonna do a special meeting for afterward in case you want to take action? Or will you just hold it until June?
Well,
Is that the only?
Well, we don't know.
yeah, we don't know. Or one, we also don't know what else we're gonna add to it yet.
Hold on.
Let's hold off on foam, and if we're gonna add it later, we can, because who knows how many more public hearings we'll tack onto that. They seem to be growing, and we're gonna get into, if the moratorium goes, I'm gonna be writing laws fast and furious, so. We'll see where we go. So let's leave that alone for the moment. If we get to the end of tonight, we decide we need to, we can always add it back. So ambulance improvement districts, the next steps. Kate, just to verify, after 30 days passed of notice, and we got no petitions? Okay. So Mary Lou, we've received no petitions. We appropriated $1,000 for the creation of each district. Michael and I have created a list of parcels. I had a question for you, Michael, and I don't know the answer because I did put them side by side. Any parcels that were in both districts, are they listed twice?
No.
Okay, we need to. We should put an asterisk next to them or something and list them in each district. Because what the assessor then has to do is assign a valuation of the portion of it, of the total value to each district. So if you can just recreate that list for me, and then what I'm gonna do is give it to Jeremy. And after May 1st, when the Mary Lou's suggestion, May 1st, the tentative evaluation for next year is established, I'll ask him to come up with a total value. The next step we need, and if you could do this as a liaison, is reach out to both agencies and ask them how much they anticipate needing from the town of Rochester for operation next year. Obviously within reason of what the current number is. So, and then, so Mary Lou, stop me if I'm saying anything wrong. Once we get that, then we do a resolution. We have to say the estimated amount per thousand, which we will do.
The way that it's phrased in the law is that, well, first you do the maps, plans, report, you file those with the town clerk. After they're filed with the town clerk, you can adopt an order, which you put in the minutes with a description of the improvements proposed and the cost to a typical property. And a typical property is a 1 to 2 family house. So you're gonna need Jeremy's help on that.
Okay. And that's done by resolution subject to permissive referendum?
Let's see. That's not the subject to the permissive referendum. Let's see.
So that's step 2.
Then you'll do that, or you'll adopt that order by resolution, and then you set a public hearing.
Okay.
Okay, and then you have to also determine how you're going to fund it. So, I know immediately you're looking, well, for 2 years, you're looking at ARPA, or maybe 1 year, but you have to also determine.
Actually, next year, we're looking to totally go straight to a taxing. ARPA was just a year.
Okay, that has to be part of the order. So you're not using any financing, so we don't have to send it to the state controller. So then you hold the public hearing, and then you will adopt a resolution either determining that you're going to establish the district or that it's not in the best interest, or you say we're going to make changes and have another public hearing. But if you decide that you are going to do the district after public hearing, that decision is subject to a permissive referendum.
Okay, and just for time frame, we would have to do that by July meeting, because in order to be on the November ballot, if somebody were to challenge it.
Right, we have to get that in at the beginning of August. Yep.
So Michael, if you can get me that info, I'll get it to Jeremy as soon as May 1st comes. I doubt we're gonna have it. When's our meeting?
The 5th, I think.
We may have it for the 5th meeting, probably more than likely, though, we'll have it by the workshop meeting. So then we would do the next step at the workshop meeting to establish the average cost. And then we schedule a public hearing.
Yeah, that all those things get done together.
So we'd have to do a public
The
hearing.
cost, adopt the order. Part of that order is the cost.
Yeah, so we're kind of, we really gotta hustle.
So we want 1 year? Do we want them to project out multiple years? We want some historical information.
No, it's only got to project out next year.
Okay.
We don't need to project out multiple years.
We
We
want
just
to see
need to know,
historical data.
we need to know the amount of money that they're gonna need next year, 2023, January 1, to operate. And that will be collected from tax dollars.
You don't want to see a basis of estimate or any of that.
I don't think the historic's gonna help us because they were a volunteer, we were donating 25 grand. All of a sudden, we went from 25 to $250,000 because they went to pay.
And,
So I don't know if
and each
historic's
year,
gonna
the
help
tax
us.
rate's gonna change. Right now, this local law is just establishing the district. So we only care about next year at this point. Beyond that, and this will be part of our budget public hearing now every year, just like any other special district. They can ask for 250,000 and we can say, nope, we're not giving you that much. I think, right, Mary Lou, in future, if they ask for a certain amount, we have the ability to.
It's your district, so you're going to have to
Right, it's our
determine.
district. Now, a question. So Marbletown formed this committee. Do we need to do all that?
Yeah, after a district, you're going to need district commissioners and things after you set up the district.
Okay, but that doesn't need to all be formed before we have the
No.
permissive
No.
referendum. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. So you can get that to me and then I'll get share, based on that information, I'll try to get valuation from Jeremy as soon as after May 1st if I can. Okay. And then I'll try to bring it back to the May meeting, but it probably be the May workshop.
Yep, I'm gonna.
Okay, next, Michael's done great work on mapping. I've driven a lot of miles. I now know every back road and private road in town of Rochester. I've been on every single one of them. We have a coverage map. It's a lot better than we thought. What would you estimate number of parcels
That we have covered?
that we don't have covered?
I mean, their number was 26, so I'd say we're probably in the 20 to 40 range.
Yeah, so, and that's properties that have a structure on them or not vacant properties. We're not counting vacant. You want to share the map real quick?
Do we need to share the map?
I don't think we need to.
Yeah,
We finished a lot of the ones that were in yellow. Basically, I went out the last couple of days and knocked off the rest of the yellow for the most part.
and what Mike sent out in the packet today.
Oh, yeah,
it
I
has the
did send it.
latest changes
Yeah, I did
this
send
morning.
it. You're right.
Nice work.
So-
Dana.
What did you do, Mike? Go and knock on doors and say, hey, you want to watch TV together and see if they
No,
have it?
I went and drove the road and followed I opened up the hatch so I could see out the top of the sunroof, moonroof, whatever you call it. And as I drove along the road, I could look up and see where it was on the telephone poles.
Totally safe.
I stopped a lot. People probably wondered why I was stopping in their driveway, and notes on my map. I have a lot of Ys and Ns.
She wrote the assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody
and I was the
loves
assessor, yeah. But, oh, a person asked me what I was doing, and I told them, and they were happy, because they didn't have cable, and they were happy to tell me they didn't have cable. So, but we now have, with the exception of Lundy Road and Yeagerville, which one of these days, Lundy Road, I can get to from my house somewhat easily, but when you get pretty far up, there's nowhere to turn around and you end up backing up. So I'm not driving up there now with all the rain and the washouts we've had. I'm not tempting that one right now. But Marge Gallagher, the comptroller, is convening a county committee to study these. Other towns have done similar. I doubt any towns have done to the extent that we did, but they were very happy to get our results. And she's going to be doing an announcement later this week about this county committee. They're going to turn all these results over to the state commissioner of broadband. There actually is a state commissioner, and we'll see if we get some results. And the county executive's office told me yesterday that Senator Hinchy, who is not our senator right now, but is scheduled to be if she wins election in November next year, was able to get a lot of things covering broadband into the state budget this year. So all good news. And then we'll take this results to Spectrum and try to get a dollar value cost from them. One thing Michael and I've talked about, we're not asking them to bring it to people's homes. We're just asking to get it to the nearest utility pole on whatever way, which is a considerably different price tag than getting it to somebody's house. Some of these homes are very far off the road. That's, to me, that's on the person's responsibility to get to their house.
Well, and Spectrum said if it's within the range, if it's on the utility pole and the house is within the range, they would connect.
Yeah, it's what,
It's
200
more-
feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, within 200 feet, they will make the connection free of charge.
But if you're 5,000 feet off the net, have a conversation.
I'm sure some people will dig their own trenches and lay their own wire. But we're getting there. The JCAP grant award, the RFP for the bathroom improvements, we got 0 response. I did put it up on the contract reporter. I personally emailed it to a number of contractors, had a few back and forth conversations. Most of them declined to bid on it because they're just swamped. The problem lies in that 30,000 is supposed to be used by the end of the year. It is only April, but we can rebid it, try again, see where it goes. I can try a little harder to try to get it. If anybody knows of contractors who want to
Local?
No, we did not.
We give a bonus for, like, one of the things I was thinking that, that might help us get this is we left it open-ended for the design element. And anything about having somebody design the thing for us so we can have a more equalized bid, maybe somebody be more eager to, because the couple of contractors I talked to, they weren't excited to bid for it because they just thought on design elements alone that they didn't have enough information to put in.
Yeah, the problem is if you hire a designer, the price goes up.
Yeah.
Because now we're paying an architect to design a bathroom, whereas a lot of contractors can do that themselves, and that's why we didn't. Also, we're gonna have to go out. That would have to go out to bids, right, Mary Lou? That's not a specialized service?
No, that likely would not have to. If you
Okay.
were hiring an architect, that's like
Just the way
hiring an engineer or an attorney.
So I could go out and get quotes.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong with the price, but let's say it costs $2,500 to get an architect to draw it up.
I think we're going to get considerably higher than that.
Well, but just hear my point, if we give back the $30,000, then that's 30 grand we don't have. If we had to put in $5,000, $6,000 to get this thing built out to use the rest of the money, I think it's still it's good money after good money.
Okay. Well, does the board want to make a motion then to authorize the supervisor to see quotes from architects? And I'll reach out to some of the ones we already have relationships with and start there. And depending on the dollar amount, we may only need for 2 or 3 quotes for us to decide.
I'll make a motion for you to seek out quotes for us to review.
Okay.
Could we have an architect or an engineer? All right.
Possibly. You can say an architect or an
Architect
engineer.
or engineer.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be an architect, because most engineers deal with, not necessarily,
More structural.
yeah, they're dealing more structural than, but sure. Sure. Yeah, but you can say architect or engineer, and that opens it up.
Well, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. I'll give it a shot, see if I can find out. I'll start with the ones that are in our firehouse, see if they want to help us out.
Okay. Determine people.
And I'll try to get that back to us by the 7th meeting, and then we can always put it back out there for bids. And we can do it, a shorter version this time.
And again, if these things come back as $10,000 or $12,000, obviously we're.
Yeah, the firehouse is doing the same thing. Their bids that they did get came back, so they had a design.
Yeah.
Their bids came back so high that they threw them all out of the back and going. Moving on, municipal planner. I had a lot of good reviews indeed. I have had 19 applications, primarily graduate students, some who are probably in their last year of school at this moment, some of which have been out there for a little while. Out of that 19, there were 6, I think, I'm talking off the top of my head, I think there were 6 that I rejected as not having the right qualifications for the job. Of the 12 or 13 remaining, there's probably 8 that really stand out. So there's, I would say, 8 good and maybe 4 or 5 maybes. The other option, I did call a retired planner from, that was a planner locally, is now working as a one-man consultant team, not as a firm, by himself. He charges the same amount that CPL is charging, but he's working with another community right now, and he said, his experience in most applications is 4 or 5 hours maximum on any application, which is, we're getting 10, 12 hours a month. The downside is he doesn't attend meetings. What he does is he sends, and that's by their choice. He writes memos, sends them the memo, they review the memo, and he does write their decisions. He does a lot of what our current, he's willing to have the discussion. He just is pretty much adamant that he doesn't want to attend meetings. I did talk with another person who is a sole planner as well, who is applying, had just the opposite reaction. They're applying for a day job. They will be allowed to still freelance on their own, as it were, because their day job is going to be with the county, a neighboring county, not Ulster County. And as they said, they would still have evenings and weekends free, so they would be willing to come to the meetings. They just couldn't be available during the day, possibly, depending on, they're in the process of applying for a job, and it's gone well. So I'll just leave it at that. So we kind of have 3 options. We can go with this, we can, and I don't want to say specific names or anything here, but we can certainly talk about it a little bit more in executive session in terms of specifics. We could explore the possibility of the applications. We could set up a committee to have interviews. I would recommend it be a representative of the planning board, either the chair or the vice chair, and a representative of the ZBA chair, myself, and one other town board member would be my guess.
And I've never done this before, but I do work so very closely with the planners.
Yeah, you want to be involved too?
I would,
Okay,
even
And
if
I'm
it's
fine with
just
that.
reviewing the, the applications.
well, what I would do is I would supply the resumes of the people. I mean, I think the ones I've rejected, they're ones that it's a stretch. They may have, one of the criteria I put in the search was GIS experience. GIS experience, you get it in many other job descriptions other than just planning. So like one person did a lot of event organizing and things like that. They had no planning experience at all. They applied because the GIS triggered a response to them. That's just one example. So the ones that I eliminated pretty much are, those 6 really didn't have any, experience in it. The other ones, there were some good ones. There were a number, I did put in the search. I advertised in all of New York State in the criteria, as well as Ulster County, Dutchess County, Orange County, Sullivan County. Because of the New York State hit, I got some responses from other states, but they all seem to be people who are willing to relocate. Bear in mind, I did put in part-time or full-time. I still have not heard back from the other town who said they were maybe interested, and I'll follow up with them, because that's a game changer.
Yeah.
If it's a full-time job versus a 20-hour-a-week job.
I say either way. I mean, it's the most beautiful community. People should want to move here from out of state.
Right.
Part-time.
One person who applied was from Puerto Rico, and all their experience was in Puerto Rico, but they did have experience in planning, but not in. So, anyway, does the board want to proceed with establishing a committee to at least review the applications, and then we can talk more about the other details and a little bit greater in an executive session, because it's going to name specific names. It would be negotiating a contract.
Yeah.
If we decide to go the route with either of the professional planners.
We should form a committee.
Okay. Who wants to be on it? And only reason I'm a little cautious about you, Aaron, is because Sam's on the plan.
Yeah, I think, I love being on hiring committee, but I would not, anyone else.
Doesn't Adam make sense because he's been on the
Adam's been on the
planning
planning
board?
board with me. He was my vice chair. If the board is okay, I think he at least has a real feel. You do, but whatever you guys want. Okay.
Would not want to sign up.
Okay. Yeah, understood.
I do feel like if we do go the route where we do create the job and we are hiring a planner, I would like the whole board to interview.
Yes, once we establish, in this case, for this particular job, it's very different than a clerical job or something like that. Once we establish the top 4 or whatever, I do plan, much like we're doing with the website coordinator kind of thing, we would have a formal interview with, or like we did with the assessor.
Could I ask this? So what if instead of saying hiring committee, what if this committee considers the other options as well?
Exploratory committee.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
that's fine.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion then to establish an exploratory committee for the municipal planner. I won't even say position, we'll just say municipal planner. It consists of the supervisor, Councilman Paddock, a representative of the planning board and a representative of the zoning board.
And
And our town attorney.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay. 9:00. Do we want to go through the solid waste littering law, or do we want to push it aside one more time?
I'm embarrassed.
You ready for it?
I'm ready for it, but I don't.
I hate to say, I look back and when I first presented this, it was like May of last year.
Yeah. I'm ready for it. I only had like a couple of edits, and then I got excited about some of it.
Oh, good. It is kind of embarrassing. We have the $200 fine signs and we don't have the ability to enforce them. Okay. I'm gonna run away for a moment, but please start. You will. We've been through it a bunch, so do you want to just sort of do what we did? Pick out highlights, or do you feel the need to go through it line by line? I'm okay with that. Mary Lou, I know you haven't looked at it since today, but is there anything that you looked at it at all?
Can you explain what this is? Does this
It's
include
been a while.
red lines?
What's that?
Do people submit red lines? or
No.
is this the original?
So, well, it's sort of the original. So what I did, the background is, I took our current solid waste law, I took Warsing's littering law, combined the two of them together, cutting out the portions where there was redundancy. I then tweaked it a little bit to fit Rochester more in the penalty phase, and there was a section we had a choice A or choice B, and the last board talked about that and came up with it. And I'm trying to remember where that section was.
That was
That was the section on the,
the like fine.
that was the fines and penalties section. 118-25. We had two sort of choices of how to handle it, and we settled on this one. So there never was really a red line version. It was just my original proposal.
Okay.
And we did talk about, originally we talked about three options. One is leaving the solid waste as a standalone, adding its own standalone litter law, or the third option was to merge them as a hybrid.
I remember wanting to do a hybrid.
Yeah, and I think the last board kind of finally got to that. We were kind of at that stage of one is the best way to go.
Right.
So I think this is the hybrid version. I know there were a few things in there that maybe are outdated, and some of the things that were in there that may be outdated are our solid waste law, which is probably 30 years old.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I had a few things.
Yep. Do you want to take this with a commitment that we talk about this at the May 7th meeting and really look at this, or do you want to talk about it tonight?
I would say because of how long we've been delaying this and with Earth Day later this week, I think it's a good time.
Okay.
If we dive in.
Okay, let's dive into it and
We've been
just,
kicking it down the road.
instead of reading every section, just sort of skim each section and tell me if there's anything. So we'll start with the intent. I think it's pretty straightforward. The application, again, pretty straightforward. The word usage is, that's pretty standard.
Councilman Coleman's favorite.
What's that? Sorry, I got locked into something. No,
The definitions word use is the word shall is always
Oh,
directory
I do.
and not merely
Like that.
directory. That's your favorite.
Well, and it is.
I do, so I do want to be careful in this law about not being too nanny state, for lack of a better word. So like, when we say things like properties are kept clean and free of litter, like, I just want to make sure, I don't want this to become something that causes neighbors.
Well, let's do that when we get to that section, those sections.
That's a legislative intent, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think we should take out words like clean we should say free of litter. Like the concern here is litter and things that are negatively impacting like neighborhood property. Like you have unbagged garbage on your property, that's a problem.
Where do you
Somebody-
see that?
Where do you say the word?
And
Oh, kept
legislative-
clean and free of litter.
So I just want to be careful, like, as we're, I don't want this to become something where, oh, I don't like the way. that
Okay,
other
so the
property-
clean is, yeah, that, I mean, that legislative intent is probably there, for the original, so. Within the town are kept free of litter, we'll just take out the clean end.
And we may want to say like another hazardous materials or something like that.
Well,
That's
up above, we do, it's clear that it's about the. use of-
hazardous materials have other jurisdictions.
Okay.
And yeah, we don't wanna commingle this. So, but I'll take out the words clean, or kept free of litter, we'll just take out the clean end. And to provide, yeah. I mean, some of this is kind of covered under already under property maintenance codes in New York state law, but, and Jerry can enforce those, but this is, the solid waste law is kind of the, when people allow their property to become more or less a garbage area.
Right.
And the littering is more the people who throw a bag of garbage out their cars, they drive down the road. I mean, we're not going to enforce every person that throws
Well, the other thing.
we
too
can
is-
try, but
Is as our, I hate to call it, but we have now it's forest season comes up. Now we have our swimming holes and hiking trails and everything else. And this is where this all-
And that's the kind of stuff that I think. we-
yeah, exactly. But a lot of that is like the property maintenance. Jerry was ready to serve the depot owners that 2 years ago when it was such a mess, but then a bunch of volunteers went out and cleaned it up. He said, now I can't because he didn't have any photographic evidence and it's now clean. So thank you to the volunteers, but it stopped us from being able to cite the owners. Not that we ever would have tracked them down. They are in the country.
The definitions, I tried to think of additional.
Yeah, I think the definitions are, and you might want to take this and put it against the current solid waste law and then on your own. I'm not asking that we adopt this tonight. I mean, that we even, we don't have to refer this to anybody. This is our own law. So the only thing we have to do is schedule a public hearing. Yeah, exactly. So we can tweak it, but if we talk through tonight, I agree with Adam, it's a big step. So dumping prohibited, that's standard out of our current.
Where are you now?
118.4. I went past the definitions because Aaron said they look pretty standard. Disposal at lawfully established sites required. You know what I can do is let me just bring up on my. Do you want me to bring up on the screen the current solid waste law? And
I have it up myself, but
if you have it up, you can tell us what's the same because that's all I was going to do.
it's the numbers are a little.
The
different.
numbers have changed.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was going back and forth to see when I did my review.
Okay.
But there isn't the dumping, anything, so basically what this did is it took anything pertaining to like our current law, you're not allowed to place garbage in streets or streams. This goes much further
Right.
into defining what.
Yeah, and I did reorder this to make more sense.
But the original law basically created the transfer station, so that's why a lot of it's about that. The first thing that I had was 118-8. Instead of landfill use, I think.
Aaron, the 118.5 in our code is the old 118.15, just so you know.
Oh, okay, yeah. The first comment that I had was in the draft 118.8. Just
Okay.
that it says permit or license required for landfill use, that should be transfer station.
Oh, yeah, I changed it in the law, but not.
And don't know if anyone.
Yeah, the date of this is. I don't even know. 1992, look at that, 30 years old. That was an estimate, but I knew I was pretty close. So B and C are still fine?
Yeah, there were, yeah.
We define transfer station? No, I'm gonna add a definition for transfer station.
Well, we designate. the
Yeah.
transfer
You
station,
designate the airport road as the transfer station.
Yeah,
and
we do.
define it.
So I don't know that you need a definition.
Say we don't need a definition? Okay,
We also say there's no private transportation.
right, okay. So the 118.9, the permit fees, that was 118.13.
$118.12. So I don't know if we want to specify. Dead animals, there's a lot of people deposit dead animals there.
Where?
States. They can fish, so I don't know if we want to say like carcass, like we don't want people dumping roadkill.
Well, it says, other than
Big
with
pets.
permission of municipal or state agencies, so if you're bringing food waste and you're allowed.
Where?
She's looking at B, you're looking at A.
I'm
So,
looking at, oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, and so B is like you're allowed to toss out Fido's food there.
Yeah,
Okay.
and like throw away, like if you're allowed to put chicken breast in the compost.
Yeah, carcass wouldn't work because like turkey carcass is,
Yeah,
we
that's
can
right.
take that, so.
I mean, is that a UCCR?
How about we
rule?
say,
What?
yes,
You can't throw out.
it is. You
Like
can't throw out roadkill.
No, yeah, you have to call.
Do they have any language in their contract with us that says what they can't do? Is that?
No, they don't, and we're actually not sending it there anymore anyway. Ourselves.
The town has to follow certain protocols, but we're moving on.
Yeah.
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 I mean, we could be.
You know, I'll put a question mark by it, Michael, and I'll do a little research to see if there's some other way to better define it, but
I think the last time we went over this, that we went over that section, I remember I questioned
yeah,
animal carcass.
yeah,
The one time we actually got. back into this.
yeah. Well, back then we weren't doing compost either when this was obviously when this was.
I don't think we need -13. Like, do we need to be?
This one was
constructed metal?
confusing because 118.14 is placement of rubbish and covered containers
Right,
collection.
and
Right.
that's,
So 118.13 is for your home.
I agree.
yeah,
We shouldn't be dictating.
no, and I'm looking to
I
see
keep
if,
mine
it-
at Tupperware.
I'm looking to see if this came from the original. It didn't come from the original. I think that came from the littering, the county's. So you're saying all in 14, we don't even need?
No, 1.
Okay.
113 doesn't fit there.
That's telling people what they have to do at their house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have a dumpster that's uncovered at my house right now.
Now, I think in the short-term rental law, we require it to be covered, which is great, but
Yeah, the reason to have it is mostly to
Bears.
keep bears and other animals out.
But we're not gonna mandate that it be a metal.
No, that's fine, but the covered part is, the covered part is there.
I think your thing is, it should be bad. And I think what we want to avoid is like the large dumpsters that get filled with like unbagged garbage that then blows out.
But you're talking about for at the transfer station, this.
No, I'm talking about houses too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I put the garbage bag outside my front door and I could let it carry it out. Amazing. So it's like, that's fine.
You know, if you look down in 11814B, it talks about covers there.
So why don't we just let's take.
I would take out,
13
I would take 13 out completely.
And then 14 will become 13.
Because that 14
And-
covers if you're getting pickup.
And can I suggest that you say placement of rubbish in covered containers, private collection? So people don't think that we're collecting their garbage?
Yeah, I had that same note. There's another one.
Yeah, the C part,
I have one edit in B,
okay, sorry,
change man to person.
okay, sorry. Yeah.
The one thing I was wondering too is, do we want
Should we
to,
just take out the material of substantial construction, just leave it at that?
yeah, that's fine.
We'll take out the
Yeah, I have garbage pickup, the receptacles I have don't have any handles on them. The truck picks them up.
Yeah, mine don't either.
And
yeah.
and they can't, and they got wheels that are really, really heavy sometimes.
Yeah.
Well,
Should we take out
B.
okay, so let's just start from the beginning. Authorized private receptacles for rubbish pickup shall be of material of substantial construction. We'll take out the with two handles. Do we care if they're handled by one adult person, or we take that out too?
I've got a question for you, and I truly don't know the answer to this. Do you have any private haulers who pick up garbage in the town who are not using the modern trucks that just lift up?
Yes,
we
yes, we
Okay,
do.
all right, then it's
Actually,
important.
quite a
Thank
few.
you.
Lots of
Quite a few. We
Okay.
have quite a few that are still a guy jumps off the back and.
Okay,
throws-
beautiful. Just
Yeah.
wanted to be
Yeah.
sure. Thank
No,
you.
we still, yeah.
Can you leave that then? I was thinking things for chores,
Yeah.
but then adults would take garbage.
Why don't we just say
Yeah,
that
that's
we'll
between
take out
the
the
person
handles.
And the company.
We'll take out the two handles and just leave the other, and it's, you know.
The company's
The
gonna
company
regulate
is
it.
gonna,
Regulate.
Okay. Okay. So we'll just take everything out of, it should say authorized private receptacles for rubbish pickup shall be of material of substantial construction, and then there. Then we'll remove everything up to accepting bulk containers. We don't need any of that. Each container shall have its own lid and be securely covered. I think that's important.
Mhm.
Boxes containing rubbish and capable of being handled by will be allowed. Do we really want boxes?
there's that like recycling receptacles sometimes. or
This is boxes containing rubbish. so.
It's the same thing, it's up to the waste carrier at this point, you know, I've had, you know, people put Amazon, you know, your Amazon box and fill it with garbage.
Yeah, but that's when the animals start coming around and dragging it all over the neighborhood.
But again, it's up to.
No, but it's not up to us though.
But a
because-
plastic container isn't gonna stop. I can't tell you the kinds of bears that open my.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I know,
Or
it
raccoons,
seems like,
I think we want to avoid, Adam, somebody just putting open garbage out there on the road, because the likelihood that it's gonna become our problem when it's dragged all over the road is the issue.
Which happens.
Also,
Right.
they're securely covered inside. They're making sure it's a covered bin.
That's the,
I think we could maybe take out the boxes containing rubbish. We can just take that out, right? Because we've already said,
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
we'll just take-
Well, and we're saying,
we've already said they
saying-
just need to be not falling apart. And
So
they
we'll
need to
take out
be
that
covered.
whole sentence.
and we're saying, well, containers intended for collection by a private agency that are put out for street collection. It needs to be in a container. So rubbish. put-
Authorized
put
private
curbside.
receptacles shall be material of substantial construction, right
Yeah.
there. I think we ended
Yeah.
there. And then so we cut out, we say each container shall have its own lid and be securely covered. I think that we would still want. Then we say newspapers, magazines, that must be bundled and securely tied. I think that's reasonable. No other type of container will be allowed under this chapter with the exception of authorized general cleanup collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I was wondering is, do we want to stipulate in the event that you have like those big dumpsters that get filled with brim because they have an event, that there's a requirement that you can keep it.
Well, it used,
That's really up to the people at the lot, though. Like,
Yeah.
I've had it where like I've had a dumpster filled at my house in construction for a month and waiting for the guy to come.
yeah, I don't think the homeowner doesn't always have a lot of say over that, control over that.
Yeah, we just want someone to-
I do think there's stuff, if it's an event, I think there is stuff in like the site plan
Yeah.
about that,
Yeah, I mean,
so.
yeah, it's rare a homeowner's gonna rent the dumpster.
No, I'm saying what properties, there are larger properties, why that may expect overflowing down.
Yeah, that doesn't really, this doesn't really pertain to that. That's.
Would
more
that fall
property.
into right at the beginning when we talked about the general fleet?
So they can be cited.
If dumpsters are overflowing, Jerry can cite them now, even without this.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
What
course you can.
are, why, thank you. Sorry, I have to scroll back a little bit. At the end of 14B, what are authorized general cleanup collection?
That's like our day where.
That's like our cleanup day, if we were to
highway
schedule a cleanup day.
Okay, all right, where people could put things out and
Like
you'd pick them
Earth
up.
Day.
Okay,
Earth Day, you can leave the orange bags.
How about
on
we
the
take
road.
the word authorized out with the exception of municipal general cleanup?
right,
collection?
yeah. Thank you.
Yep, in case we ever decide to do that. Some towns do it, we haven't done it, we do our Earth Day and everybody.
Yeah,
puts
we
their
have done
flags
it.
there, They found it on their roads.
Yeah, occasionally we've done it in past, but it's been a while.
What?
I didn't even think of that.
I said I didn't even know that.
Oh, I know it's happened for years. It's happened for years. I probably.
Does anyone have anything for C? Because D needs to be taken out completely.
Well, I'm wondering if we even
I
need,
think C needs.
I think C should be taken out because I don't think we can really enforce it. Because,
Oh, yeah.
So when I get home.
C and D.
And then D is about municipal collection. and that's
Well,
not-
wait a minute. Go back to C. Did you read through the whole thing? That's a pretty typical thing that it,
No, I realize it
Because
is,
they
but I think in a rural area, it's so much harder to enforce.
the
And I
after
think-
6 and ending at 7?
But I also think it's gonna lead to neighbor,
That's.
a neighbor gets mad at their neighbor, oh, they kept their garbage cans out till 8 o'clock last night, I'm gonna turn them in.
And this is the suburb.
I just don't think we wanna get into this. If somebody's garbage cans are out on a rural road, it's a lot different than if they're out in a
Okay.
neighborhood. Yeah,
They're usually
I'm-
empty inside.
I'm thinking of our short-term transit rentals too, when they put them out on a Monday.
Yeah,
and they
I
come
think
to
we
pick 'em
just-
up and-
I think it's gonna be one of those, Jerry's never really gonna be able to enforce it. It's only our constables. who are
Okay.
really gonna- Yeah, I think we just take it out.
C and D.
D is about, yeah, right. Yeah. 1815 is important to have. Yeah.
And people show up to the park and throw their house.
Oh, we already do. Yeah. Mary Lou, if somebody were to throw their garbage in somebody's private dumpster, that person can enforce that, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
So 1815, we don't need, we say public litter receptacles, which means we don't want somebody to come, throw all their garbage in the towns
at the town park or
at
something,
the
yeah.
town park, but we don't need to get involved in somebody driving, we don't have a grocery store, but somebody driving to ShopRite, throwing their garbage in ShopRite's dumpster. I'm
Yeah,
just using-
that's ShopRite's
That's up to
problem.
the.
That's, yep. Yeah, we're not gonna enforce on other people's private property.
16 is important, both A and B. Yeah, you don't want people, especially the culverts. A lot of people just sweep stuff into the culverts and go, oh, it's somebody else's problem until the culvert backs up.
Under this one, just says for any private sidewalk or driveway. Are we worried about lawn clippings or anything like that? in
Where
village streets? I'm still
are
on
you?
B. I'm wondering if this is a spot for yard clippings into the street.
That
and
is
people
the
mowing on them.
definition of litter for that.
Yeah, I don't know if yard clippings are like considered litter.
I just know at this time of year, you always get the Facebook posts.
Well,
for
it's
the
dangerous for
motorcycles.
motorcycles.
Yeah.
Really dangerous for
But it-
motorcycles.
And I see it every year, somebody on a road just mowing their yard around the street.
I think the definition of litter, are you saying you are concerned? with it?
I am, and I don't think we have a space for it anywhere. I don't know if it fits in here or not. I'm just saying if it did, it seems to be the spot it would fit.
I don't
The
think it's
definition of-
necessarily
If
litter.
it creates a danger or nuisance to the public, then it's litter.
Okay,
So
so it could
I
already
think if
be.
it's of a quantity that would. cause
Litter
that-
includes rubbish and rubbish includes yard clippings.
Okay,
Yeah,
So
we
if
take
it's-
them at the
if
transfer
it's-
station.
so there we
If
go.
it's somebody mowing their lawn, a little bit of grass gets onto the sidewalk, that's not litter, but if it's causing a nuisance,
Yeah.
But you're on some of these roads that don't have shoulders on them. and,
yeah.
You know, the grass comes right up to the edge and the blower, the mower.
But I don't think we need to call it out. I
Yeah.
think it's by
Just in what-
definition.
It's in the definitions. It's in the
Okay.
definitions.
Good enough. Then.
Yep.
The vacant lots, at first I questioned that being in there, and then I said, well, I get it. So, we do have in the old code, the maintenance of premises and vacant lots. And I think I took that out of this. Yeah, I think I did, because that's kind of covered under property maintenance, whether it's a vacant lot or not, it's still property maintenance. So littering from vehicles, that's an easy one. The transporting the waste,
I have a problem.
well, the DEC already covers an awful lot of it. If you have anything, like if you have a pickup truck, it's supposed to be covered.
So let's let the DEC.
Well, so one thing that this.
We have a lot of people though who drive down the road with stuff blowing up. the
Yeah,
back of
we
their truck,
do,
the
and
DEC's not
also
around.
we have people that come to the transfer station for situations like that, and we currently don't have anything saying that your load has to be parked. And I actually felt like the opposite, that it was important. to
I think
put
it
this
is.
in here, because then I think we should say that, we shouldn't be encouraging people.
It's a dangerous situation. I mean,
I think there's a difference between having bagged garbage in the back of a pickup and having loose.
There's a difference, a
Construction.
secured couch, for example, doesn't need a tarp over it,
no.
but loose waste.
Even bag garbage, the bag breaks open or something, and now you got a trail behind.
It seems like a lot.
Well,
Or any other inlet is entirely covered and closed so that the material cannot escape. So
Right.
it covers, you don't have to do it if you have garbage bags back there. It's if you have loose, like if you have your cardboard back there, they can fly out.
And
Okay. As long
Or
as that's-
something. It
as
seems
long as
like,
we're
I
not-
think I'm reading it.
no,
so-
but it's when people are driving down the road with stuff flying up, even recycling, you get enough wind going back. I've been guilty of it myself, where like all of a sudden I looked in my rearview mirror and, oh, I'm losing my recycling, because the wind gets down there and picks up those empty plastic bottles.
listen, it wasn't litter, but one time I was transporting spinach and the lid to my tub flew off.
I'm
And
sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
spinach
You had a
went
spinach.
all over the car behind me. And
Oh.
anyway, it was, I retrieved the lid, but I was like, that could have caused
But
an
if you
accident.
cook that spinach, it only would have been like that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how
I
But
don't
I'm
mean to
just
laugh.
saying, no,
But I can picture the image of the person driving behind you suddenly getting
yeah,
showered in spinach.
but
That's
I'm
the
even,
legend of
it was
Popeye.
covered, but the wind.
Yeah, it can. Okay, let's leave it alone. Placing garbage or waste in streets or streams, that's pretty obvious. Littering on open or vacant private property. I think that's where I combine the maintenance of vacant lands and the littering law together. Responsibility to maintain private property,
Let's change the his to their, a woman to.
which section?
The one you're in.
Which one? 22?
Yeah, responsibility is
yeah.
to maintain.
There.
Let's say
Or
there,
just say the.
yeah.
I'll say that. The maintaining the sidewalks is already probably in our sidewalk code, but this is specific about free of litter. Because you are responsible for sidewalks in front of your house. You're responsible to shovel them. You're responsible to keep them free.
So just to be clear, what this is saying is that somebody throws garbage onto your sidewalk, you're responsible to clean it up.
Yep. Yep. Unless the town has chosen to take over maintenance of that sidewalk.
That's it.
Yeah.
Town's responsibility.
Because there are sidewalks that are not, they're in a right of way and they're not owned by an individual. We had great discussion at the Supervisors Association about, we don't have a lot of sidewalks, but some towns that have sidewalks are like, who maintains them? Who
It comes down to an insurance liability
Yeah.
issue, Councilman Paddock.
Yeah. Who shovels them is,
Yep.
is really the issue.
I'm thinking of those 13 people in our town who have sidewalks.
Yep.
Yeah.
For the moment, maybe someday we'll have more.
You
Yeah.
never know.
Issue of appearance ticket, that's obvious. The penalties, I think we've been through it, and
Well, the issuance of appearance we discussed last time.
Yep.
Whether or
I
not,
don't know that these penalties, jive correctly with the state law, so I'll look.
okay, you'll let us know.
so
We changed the fine, the not less than 200, because the signs in town say $200 fine. So that's why we made this, that's exactly the reason we say not less than $200.
Sounds like a great idea.
so on 11824, I think we need to be a little more flexible with that. Because if we're requiring a code enforcement officer to, or not the code enforcement officer, well, yeah.
It's either the code enforcement officer or the constable. They're both public servants.
And they have to witness
Yep.
the actual act.
Yep. Yep.
Not see pictures of it or.
They can see pictures of it if it's garbage or something, or somebody, somebody took a picture of a vehicle showing the license plate of somebody throwing a bottle out the window, but chances of getting that picture are probably slim to none.
Or if you go.
Yeah, the times they find things that
If you
aren't,
go through the garbage and find identifying information,
exactly.
you can investigate beyond that and see if it's credible, but only they can issue. So the observed is your part that you have the issue
Well,
with?
what if Kate sees somebody littering and wants to?
She can't,
No,
because she can't issue a ticket.
she can't ask code enforcement officer.
They can, but they can't issue a violation unless they have to observe the problem.
Okay.
They can investigate a report. But, if there's garbage in a property and they go there and they see there's garbage, then they can issue a violation. If somebody threw something out the window and one of us saw it and called it in, unless we had physical proof, there's no.
But this is one reason why we should have cameras at the transfer station.
Yep.
Because in this, some of the things that people do that are issues, they could get not just chastised by the employees. They could get served.
You want to change the subject, if you want to get quotes, I'll be happy to look into it.
Okay.
I got one, a really good one for a house. I was blown away and I thought it's
Yeah.
a great.
Yeah. Just look at it and see, and we can maybe have them record right to the computer that's already there,
Yeah.
so. Get me some quotes and I'll be. So Mary will look at the penalty section and let us know what's good or bad. Litter removal. So basically they have 20 days.
I'm sorry, back to the,
Back to which be,
under penalties,
Oh.
say forfeiture of the license or permit. I don't know. if we need that.
Yes, we do for the transfer station.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. we do.
That's what I was talking, that's why.
Yeah, if you're convicted, we can take, it's a permit that you can use on transfer station. If you don't play by the rules, we can withhold the permit from you. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, we might, I mean, we might say, you might want to, because that, I think that is in the solid waste law.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to qualify that by saying penalties.
But why don't we
regarding-
wait till Mary Lou comes
Okay.
back and says what we can and can't do before we tear it apart too much, because we'll let her tell us what we can and can't do. Right there too is letter E, town board has the right to suspend, revoke, or cancel any permit. Violates the provisions of the law, so we have that too.
Right, but I think that is only applies if it's an issue with the transfer station. I think that's a carryover from the other law,
Yeah.
not like if someone.
Well, we can't suspend a permit that we don't authorize, but the judge, that's B, where the judge can take your permit away. So the process, that's kind of what you were asking about, Michael. So somebody reports it, code enforcement can cause an inspection to be made and report their findings. We should change the his to there. I'll do a search anywhere it said his, I'll change it to there.
Should it also be saying where it says code enforcement officer in the vocabulary?
No, because this code enforcement shall cause inspection, he can ask the constable.
Oh, okay, so
Just like he
go
asked them to go
issue
issue building code violations, it starts with him.
and start with him and then have.
Yeah, the constables can enforce these laws on their own
Under
too.
New York State code.
Yeah,
So they
under
follow-
under
follow the
other
law.
provisions of the constabulary,
Gotcha,
but
okay.
this, he
I
can
just wanted to make
cause
sure
an
it didn't have to
inspection.
also be-
And then the report goes, so Mary Lou, in this whole section, the report goes to the town board. Is that normal, or should we just not even be involved? You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, I had a little glitch. It wasn't letting me on mute. It was giving me a signal problem
This
code.
is in the removal proceedings here, so.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't think it, I think courts are the way that should be.
Okay, do you want to take a look at this and just
Yep,
sort of
yep.
rewrite for us then, and then we won't worry about it too much?
Yep.
Because the whole process is A, B, C is the public hearing, D is removal of litter. E,
Right.
and
Yeah, and
remedies.
I'll look to
Let
see
you
what,
look at that whole section.
yeah, and I'll look and see what other towns are doing and if there's a
Okay.
reason for this.
I-
But
And also, it's like, aren't there these ongoing issues that a lot of towns, including ours, have had? And maybe the court system hasn't been adequate, and that's why something like this would be in there?
Yeah, you know,
potentially,
that all came from the Warsing's littering law. Because that's not in our original. That's not in our original solid waste law. So that all definitely came from them.
okay.
Animal or fowl, I just looked up, Michael, is already in the current code, so we can tweak that to fix the language. But yeah, that whole section, maybe we don't
Yeah.
even need it. Do we even need it, Mary Lou? Or
I
seems
would
a little
think,
complicated?
no, yeah, right, I mean, and we have penalties for offenses, which is conviction of a violation.
Right.
And you know, if people aren't cleaning up, which we've had before, it's been quite a while, but if, you know, our local court, as you know, can only fine, but we
Right.
can go up to the county level and get an order to clean up.
Okay,
And then
we'll hold off then to
probably,
look at this.
they'll probably ignore that, that order, and then we go back to have them held in contempt of court. And when the judge says in 30 days, if it's not clean, I'm putting you in jail, you would be, for contempt of my order, you would be amazed at how quickly things get cleaned up. And we have done that within the town, although it's been a long, long time.
When you say we go to the county, is that to the county Supreme Court?
Well, we can go either to county Supreme Court or Ulster County Court.
Okay,
So whereas this is allowing the town board of process to actually clean the litter, but then if we didn't recoup, if the person never paid those costs, we would never recoup them.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So I see.
it's better when a court is, because as Mary Lou said, we can't threaten to put somebody in jail, but the
Right.
judge can. So, yeah, we'll just let you rewrite that section and tell us how it's.
Okay.
We'll go from there. Did I
Okay.
send it to you in Word?
Um,
I think I did.
yes, I can edit.
Okay, great. Okay,
So can we clean that up by the May meeting to have it?
She's on there.
yeah, do you anticipate you might have it by the 7th?
I don't want to anticipate having anything by the 7th because
Okay,
I have right now 14 things on my list to do before I go.
okay,
And honest to God, not one of them's getting done because another emergency came up with a litigation today.
the
So-
littering is not so much tied to the moratorium and zoning laws, so if it's another month, it's another month.
I know.
Right, I mean,
Well,
you
I'm
know,
more worried that,
workshop
Memorial
should be,
Day, you know, we got people throwing garbage out.
Bear in mind too, we can schedule that public hearing anytime we want. We can do it the first meeting in June
right.
and adopt that night.
Just think it's a
You know, I mean, I can try, but I
I
would,
don't think Memorial Day is gonna be the magic without people showing up.
no,
If
but
we do the motorcade again, we can just have a sign that says
don't litter. There you go.
Okay, I have copies of Charlotte's, what she circulated the other day for the Housing Advisory Committee.
and I did finally get the chance to review. I'm good with it.
Aaron did send me a note on just something to add for the, under,
Were we gonna say 7 or up to 7 members?
you know, I couldn't remember when I
I
went to
think
go
we're gonna
change
say
it
up to,
seven. That's what I-
or actually, let's say no more than. We want to set a minimum number?
I think I couldn't remember when I was looking at my notes, we might do a minimum of 5 with a mat.
Well, we were talking 5 to 7 range, because that's what we did for recreation originally. But then I did put, I upped it to 7 because we've got enough people.
Do a minimum of 5, no more than
No
7.
more, are comprised of no less than 5 nor more than 7. How about that? That way, they don't have quorum issues.
Yes, yeah, I just couldn't find my notes, I didn't get a chance to go back and watch the meeting on what exactly.
I mean, less than 5 is not really, but
Yeah.
committee, but if it's 7 and only 3 people show up, then nothing gets done.
And Aaron sent me a note, just the wording from the other towns, our other,
I got it from the housing, action.
Which was,
under, in the list of items for them to be responsible for. to add creation of educational materials, fact sheets, and or technical assistance to help residents navigate the zoning and building permitting process.
Okay. You want to email me that language and then I'll insert that and we'll get a clean copy and then we'll just vote on this at the 7th.
Yeah, that sounds
Is
good
that
to me.
okay? And then I'll figure out the membership expiration term because you don't want them all to expire the same date, but when you're starting a committee fresh, with only a 2-year term, it's tough. If it's 3-year, you can say, you know, 3 of them expire the first year, 3 the second year, and then the balance. But with only a 2-year term, I guess you're saying half and half, or I think you're gonna have trouble getting people to commit to it because it's kind of an ad hoc committee. I mean, but it's gonna be an ongoing committee as long as we think we need it.
Okay, so let's figure out.
But I was gonna say, do we want to just take that term totally, but I think people kind of want to know when their job duties are
Yeah,
gonna
we can always leave early.
The ECC term?
be. Yeah, 3 years. And this is the HPC.
We decided to, because then it's also a good time frame for when Howard, like, you know, housing, everything that we need fresh.
Yeah.
Fresh stuff in there.
I mean, we could not care and figure there's gonna be its own sort of rollover.
I think it's because of like the high demand that I've already had from people reaching
Yeah.
out about it. I don't think that we'll have.
My concern is that at the end of 2 years, everybody quits, but what's the likelihood of that?
Yeah, I don't think, and I think for police people that would be pretty, like, it seems to have been a popular topic, like people have already emailed me.
Why don't we just take out the initial member term shall expire on and just say term 2 years, we'll just appoint everybody for 2 years. And at the end of 2 years, if they want to free up, they can. And if not, and if somebody drops off throughout, you can always
Appoint them to.
appoint them to a 2-year term.
And that one would
Yeah,
fall on that date.
yeah. So we'll just take
After,
that.
after a short amount of time, couple of
Yeah.
years, they'll have a rotating.
And the chairperson selected by the members of the committee, I'm okay with that in this case. I don't think the board needs to get involved with the chair of this committee. I think they let them decide themselves. So just send me that additional language.
Where did it?
So we're saying they can only serve 2 terms too in the back. We want to say keep that. Conclusion members will have the option to remain on for an additional 2-year term. The town board may decide to reappoint any good standing who. Oh, yeah, we'll take out the alternate because we're not going to have alternates.
And I don't know, it's not limited to the 1 additional 2-year term.
It's saying though that, so the town board appoints members of commissions. I think what this is saying is you can just say that you want to return and that happens.
And you'll be automatically reappointed. Whereas the town board always has the discretion.
I don't think that's what it says. It says that,
I'll have the option, the board may decide to reappoint.
right,
Or
that
if
to me
there
says
is-
you have a limit of 4 if reappointed for an additional 2.
Yeah, that's what I think it says too.
I would
Do we
take that out.
just take it out?
Because the town board can always decide if someone's serving
Yep,
too long and they
Yep.
want them.
Right,
yep.
We're
Let's just take
striking that whole
You can-
take that whole box. Yep,
always reappoint someone.
yep. Just take out that whole box. Perfect. Okay. You email it to me. I'll rewrite that. We'll get it for the May meeting. Open meetings law. I did get this. I found this on from NICOM, Mary Lou, and I emailed it to you. There you go, Adam.
Yeah, I have it.
I just
I
happened
think
to
there's
show.
a better,
Go ahead.
I think that there is a better, clearer explanation in a question and answer form on the Committee on Open Government site.
Okay, yeah,
Shows
this
you,
happened
you
to
know, what
show
you-
up in my email today or yesterday, and I saved it and printed it, so.
Yep. But, you know, basically, there's now a state law that is good until 2020, June 2024, which allows us to pass a law which would allow members, not all members, but members to be attending a meeting through video conferencing under very special circumstances. And we would have to pass a law that set forth what they were. And I really was thinking about Charlotte's question, I think at the last meeting, or the one before that, where she was wondering, could she video conference in after she has the baby? And at that point, the answer was no. At this point, the answer is still no, unless the town board is interested in passing a law to allow for that under certain extraordinary circumstances.
Well, but we could, according to this, until June 8th,
Right,
do
that's,
have a remote meeting option.
but no, you have until June 8th to pass the law.
No, that's what this says. In addition, from April 9th through June 8th, public bodies may continue to conduct meetings following the remote meeting procedure that was authorized pursuant to Executive Order
Under,
2.1.
right, you can continue to do the pandemic
Right,
meetings, which you folks decided not to do.
right. But if we decided to change it, we still couldn't do it.
Right, you could say we're going to, you know, until the end of this executive order, which puts us under the conditions because of the pandemic that allow remote meeting, you can continue that
Right, okay,
if
understood.
you want to, but it doesn't. If you want to continue it after the pandemic ends,
Right.
under extraordinary circumstances,
Then we
you have to have a law in place by June 8th. I am, if you folks are interested, we can draft that, add that to the list of many public hearings. And again, this is just your law. It doesn't have to go to the county. It doesn't have to go to any other boards.
Right.
So it's not going to take 3 months.
Where
but-
does it go that we have to adopt the law by June 8th?
In the, it says we have 60 days from the date it was signed by the governor, which was April 9th.
Okay,
I don't know if that is in the, in Wade's thing that you're looking at. You'll see
Right.
that if you go to the Committee on Open Government, or if you read
okay,
the
I'll
the
look it up. on the
portion
web-
in the budget.
Yep, okay.
So if you want to
Um,
do it, have till then. So I'd suggest you look at this handout that Mike gave you, that you go on to the Committee on Open Government site, just Google it, and they have a link right on the first page, which is questions and answers. And then let me know at the May meeting.
Since you have so much going on, Mary Lou, maybe let me know next Thursday. I can certainly write this. It's up to you, but didn't I already write it down?
Yeah, no, it's fine, but you have to discuss, the board has to discuss what they want in it.
No, it's not. This is very specific. No,
It's
it's
a
not the
start.
same.
It's a start.
Yeah. This you have to have
A quorum.
well, you also have to have a quorum in person, and you also, we get to set the reasons, simply.
Right.
I'm on vacation or.
Vacation
I
doesn't
have a
cut it.
Work meeting, that doesn't, it's gotta be, it's gotta be there's gotta be very. valid-
Examples are, an illness and you can't get out of the house, maybe you broke your leg yesterday, and you can't make it to the meeting. It also can, if you put it into the law, if someone has a problem because they're a caretaker for someone and they can't leave their home because of that. So you folks get to pick the circumstances, but they have to fall within a certain realm. So Mike, I'm totally fine with you writing it, but perhaps at your
We're not
meeting
gonna
next
adopt
week,
it till you
people
till
can
you read it.
discuss what you feel is appropriate.
Right, and that's what I was gonna say. So next Thursday, in the meeting after the public hearings, depending on what time they get done, we can decide if we want to talk about it, and then I can have something ready for the 7th, and then you can take a look at it, because if we got to adopt it by June 8th, I don't want to be writing it on, you know, getting it for the May 19th meeting. Because then that doesn't take much time to get it out for public hearing
Right.
and stuff, so I'd rather we consider it at the May 7th meeting and get it process started. And then we can
Yeah,
have it
that's
on
great.
the May workshop, May audit meeting in our become workshop and public or audit and public hearing days. Okay, so
Now, Mike, did you guys decide earlier? I'm trying to remember all these dates. Did you schedule a special meeting for after the public hearing?
Not yet.
not
What
yet,
meeting in the
because
public?
not yet, because we were waiting to see what else we had for public hearings. I was
Well,
waiting.
now you have something else to
Right, well, I
discuss, so
want to wait till the
you
next
might want to
topic.
schedule
No, but
that.
I want to wait till the next topic, so.
Okay.
There is a method.
Significant or unexpected factor or event. I think we should reflect.
Well, we can discuss it.
Do we want to pass a resolution now reversing in light of the fact that Charlotte would have a baby at any point, just to cover our bases for June, through June?
I think we're gonna open up a can of worms with the other boards if we do that for us.
Well, I can tell you, to speak honestly, I will probably not
Yeah.
attend any meetings the first couple
I
weeks.
doubt,
haven't
I
been
doubt
able
the
to.
first month she's gonna
Yeah,
be
even
able
virtually,
to,
not,
so.
no,
You
that's
deserve
not really feeling, yeah, I think a little, like a month maybe, guys, maybe.
As long as you don't want to, but you do
Yeah.
want.
No, I'm like, maybe during.
Yeah.
Like, that's
We
fine.
might be forced.
And then after June 8th, then we'll have to have done something about it. One last item here, well, we do have to do a quick executive session, and I hope, but I meant to get this to you yesterday, and I really spent most of this afternoon working on this today. In thinking about the moratorium, all our local laws of subdivision and zoning need to revert back to our comprehensive plan. We have tried twice to adopt the open space and natural heritage plan as part of our comprehensive plan. We tried a second time to do the open space, the natural heritage, and the historic resources survey. I went back through our other documents that we've done since then and found these other two, which are very valuable. The update of the home list is a continuation of the report that was done in 2008 that Kate and myself and Deb Medenbach from the HBC updated, because there were a lot of holes of missing information, and between the three of us and Maren to something reformatted it for us to make it easier. And it was updated as of then. I don't know if you've updated it beyond that one. That's when Deb did it. Deb spent some time and went in and filled in blanks. And then the historic farmsteads is a really valuable source for those 10 properties. So my thought process was, because our laws have to reflect our comprehensive plan, and these documents were reviewed by the zoning review committee in that process. And I'm hesitant to do it because we opened up a can of worms last time. That was over the critical environmental areas. just by adopting these doesn't mean we're gonna necessarily do the critical environmental areas. But my thought is if before we start changing zoning laws, we get these standalone documents included in our comp plan, we're gonna run less risk of challenge of any changes to our zoning code, because now it's gonna be spelled out as part of our comp plan. It's not gonna be this ancillary document that's kind of hanging out there. I think the public has changed their opinion somewhat based on the number of phone calls I've gotten. I'm hearing a lot of, we need to relook at this. So question is, and there's a lot of whereases, and I went through the whole history of it. I did delete some from the original, but I went through the whole thing, and I think if we're gonna change zoning codes, we should do this. My opinion.
I agree. I reviewed this all, it looked very thorough, so, and it was the first recommendation of the ZRC. That's why we were considering it.
I took it a step further with the other two documents, but I think the one is a no-brainer. It's a continuation of the 2008 report. It's the same information. It's filling in the holes.
Yeah.
It's putting SBLs in, it's putting names of owners in, it's things that we didn't know at the time or didn't find at the time. The other one, it's a coin toss whether we put it in or not. There's a lot of valuable information for those 10 properties. And agriculture is something that's really important to us. So obviously historic farmlands would be something we want to have in our comp plan. And we also, one of the comments, I went back to the comments we received at the last time, one of the complaints was that the natural heritage plan didn't respect farmers enough. And I think by adding in the strong agricultural part of it, it adds. The reason I'm kind of pushing it quickly is if we want to do this, I'd like to get this to the county for their May meeting. If we wait till June, we're going to do the moratorium public hearing at the end of the month. The earliest we can adopt the moratorium is May 18th. But then we can get off to the races and start, because I suspect the county is going to come back and say 6 months and one extension, not two. If they even say one extension, they may say no extensions. Well, we can always override them, but if we're going to have that time crunch, I just think this gives us a better, stronger foundation. And we're not reinventing the wheel. These are all documents that have been done by respective agencies.
Yeah, they're town documents, are just not.
Yeah. So if the board's willing to authorize, now, Mary Lou, a comprehensive plan is not a local law. It's just I know it's a referral and a public hearing process, but does it get a local law number?
You did.
Yeah, I mean.
I don't believe it is by local law. Let me do a quick check.
We have not done it in the past, and I just wanted to be sure. I don't think we give it a local law number. We just say it's an amendment to the, or addendum to the comprehensive in this case, because we're not amending the body. We're just adding these documents into the index. And that's what we call it. All the other standalone documents that are added to the comp plan, they're called addendum. So. The only thing I did not do was I started to, and then when I added all the other documents, I have to go back and redo the part 1 of the seeker form. But because it's a comprehensive plan, you fill out the first 2 lines and then you skip to the last line because there's no analysis of water, air. You know, it's a policy document. So it's I just to get it done before tonight. But,
Yep, I just looked to make sure it hasn't changed its resolution after going through, the whole process.
no. So I'd ask for a motion then to refer this addendum to the comprehensive plan to the Ulster County Planning Board and the Town of Rochester.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? We're not bound by it. We're just scheduling the public hearing and, or here, so if we want to.
That's fine. You want to say a little discussion about specifics then for later on?
No, we can have discussion about specifics, but it's very factual based, so it's not really.
Yeah, I'm just worried because I had a lot of people who were, like you said, farmers, it's about the natural heritage plan. And I just don't know, it was past the time since, the whole list that was done last year in March. So I would want to hear from them first to see what their opinions are now of things.
Well, and we'll hear about that though. And the other thing is too, though, I think there was some misconception because they were referring. I went back to the public hearing comments. They weren't referring to the 2018 document. I think they were referring to older documents.
There was one line that someone took issue with in the public hearing, that I don't know if it meant the thing that they thought it meant or not. It was something about like coordinating with farmers, and I think it made it sound like the ECC would be telling farmers what to do. And
I mean, the original, the open space inventory, Deborah Dewan, who was at the time the chair of the Roundup Growers Association, was involved in the process.
yeah,
The natural heritage plan, I don't know that anybody, that's where I think the confusion came about is they were referencing the natural heritage plan, but bear in mind, it's a policy document, it's not law. And the laws that come out of it are the laws. So, and they will each get their own public.
Yeah, and when I
So,
read through the
yeah.
original 80-page national
was-
heritage
yeah.
plan last year when this all came about, people brought it to my attention, but trying to remember an 80-page one I read last year. It's a little tough to read right
No,
now.
understood.
So that's my main concern with it is I just don't want, since agritourism is one of the biggest things in our town. I don't
Agreed.
want that the majority of our people in our town to be heavily. affected
Well,
by
it
what's
was-
gonna happen now.
I hate to say it, was two people who complained, and that's not the majority of the people in our town.
I definitely think that. That's what I was thinking about.
Okay.
So
Would
that's
it,
why I just want to make sure.
would it be better if instead of saying therefore town board, the town of Rochester desires to adopt, say, wishes to consider adopting? Or
No, because the resolution has to be, we have to adopt it.
We either
We're
say
not
yes or no.
considering it.
So we're adopting these documents, stating we want to include these documents.
Yes, well, we have,
We have
that's
a
the
public hearing.
starting point. It's not considering, they become a part of our
But we're not adopting it as part of the comp plan until the public hearing.
Correct.
Subsequent
So we vote on
resolution.
it after.
This,
That's-
this is the resolution stating our intent, but the intent has to be the end action, not we're considering. We're considering by adopting this, by moving this resolution for comment and for public hearing.
Yeah, and I think, but to Charlotte's concerns, we're not immediately taking
If
this.
I'm voting yes,
No.
unless it's not
No,
confirming.
no,
what it is.
It has to
Yeah,
be,
you're-
so the
you're
process
referring
is
to-
to amend your comp plan, you have to refer, actually, you have to refer it to 3 agencies. You have to refer it to New York State Ag and Markets. You have to refer it to the county planning board and the local planning board. Actually, we should amend the resolution to include New York State Ag and Markets.
Okay.
I thought that was in there.
it's in the resolution.
It's in the
Mike
re-
didn't say it.
I didn't say it in the
verbally.
resolution,
Oh,
Resolution to refer.
so I'll amend,
okay.
and I don't know whoever seconded or
Or
whoever.
I
made-
first did
yeah,
it.
Okay, so we'll amend it to be
Agamemnon.
add New York State Ag and Markets. And so this is just step 1. Step 2 is the referrals. Step 3 is the public hearing, which we will have to schedule probably for. And we had the public hearing, and last time we had the public hearing, we took no action based on the comments. There was a lot of controversy. There was a lot of misunderstandings because we were, full disclosure, I screwed up when we started talking about the critical environmental areas. People got fixated on those. That's one little part of, and it's a policy document. Until we actually adopt the critical environmental area, it's just words on a piece of paper. Okay. But making it part of our comp plan gives us stronger legal basis if we're challenged down the road. If we don't do this and we reference any of these with our local laws,
Yeah.
we're opening
I
ourselves.
understand.
Okay. All in favor as amended?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Okay, next, setting a public hearing for addendum to the comprehensive plan, immediately follow public hearing for local law B.
See how the last one, Aaron.
Now, the ADU was the one we set for. the 24th. We didn't set another public hearing for that
oh, you were referring to
This
this
better
would
law.
be. But
But
you're
it's- it
saying
doesn't
So
get
we're
it-
saying it's in the
yet. Right, this doesn't get a number, so,
Oh, that's
or
right,
letter,
it's not
so,
local
yeah.
law.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Letter.
Yeah.
The ADU was B, so
Yeah.
this will be,
Following.
yeah. So the motion to hold the public hearing to immediately follow the public hearing on local law B of 2022. The 25th, Community Center, and authorizing the town, or requesting the town clerk circulate. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Now, let's set the meeting first. To call a special meeting to be held on March 25th, May 25th, sorry, 2022. To immediately follow the public hearing on the comprehensive plan, addendum to the comprehensive plan at the Herald Community Center, and requesting the town clerk circulate.
Make the motion.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Okay, Mike, the
Yes.
special meeting I was talking about was for April 28th, so you could discuss what conditions the board wanted to place into the local law regarding video attendance at a meeting.
We already did schedule a special meeting for the 28th, I think.
No.
We didn't?
No, we did.
Yeah, no, we already scheduled a special meeting for the 28th.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Kate said.
Correct.
almost 100%.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
Maybe
here.
they'll say 99, but.
Here, here, I'll check.
I think you're right, 'cause I think that we said we would set the public hearing, then we said we do the special meeting.
Yeah.
after. We'll keep that as-
Because we have two
I'll-
special hearings that
Public hearings.
night.
There's stuff.
No, maybe we
Oh,
didn't.
we didn't.
Yeah, the
special
public
meeting was
hearing.
Friday.
We had the special meeting on the 22nd. Oh, you know why? We were gonna do the special meeting after the moratorium, but we decided to do it Friday instead, so we did not. Remember,
I
right,
put money on it.
I would have too.
Oh. Gold star.
So, make a motion to hold a special meeting on April 28th, 2022, immediately following the public hearing on local law A of 2022.
And two,
What?
Which one?
A is the moratorium.
there's
Okay.
also the recreation.
Yeah, but we're
But
just
that's the
immediately
very-
following we just have to name the one.
Oh, the
special
one,
meeting.
The last, it goes local law 2, local law 3, local law A,
Okay,
the order.
got it.
So we're immediately following local law A.
Roman numerals.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna give up on numbers and go to letters from now on. Yeah, so until we get back in sequence and we're not doing a bunch of local laws. And to request the town clerk to circulate notice.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, the executive session, it should be fairly quick, but I do let you in on two things. So I make a motion that we enter into executive session at 10:17 PM. For the purposes of discussion of matters concerning employment of a particular individual and matters of litigation. Mary Louise, actually, I don't think I'll need you, but you're welcome to stay if you want. Because it's,
can I say, just for the very beginning to report on a matter of litigation?
absolutely,
It
absolutely.
will be very quick.
Okay, I'll make that motion. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, stop. Record.
So you're-
You know,
Do I get a new link for this, Mike?
No.